Chapter 3275. Then you go ahead, I am going to sell sticky cakes. The young man happily pushed the cart and left. Dongfang Badeo waited for the young man to leave, threw a piece of sticky cake into his mouth, and then distributed the bag to others. He was a little hungry, chewing the sticky cake, and wondered. You say, the 3 people of the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect came here and went to eat. What do they mean? Did they come to this deserted village just to have a meal? It was no wonder that he thought so. When they came to West Star Mountain Village, their first impression was that it was extremely desolate. It was hard for them to imagine why the 3 ancestors of the blood-clothed underworld sect came to such a remote and backward place. Did they want to inspect the terrain and move the blood-clothed underworld sect to this place? Only the ancient sects would choose such a remote place, right? In addition, Dongfang Badeo really couldn't think of a second possibility. Who knows, but although this place is remote, it is good to develop a sect. Could it be that the blood-clothed underworld sect feels that they have offended too many people, so they want to move their headquarters here? President Qian Boguang took a bite of the sticky cake, then frowned and said, Who cares what they do? Let's go and settle accounts with them directly. Zheng Pingliang was a little eager to try. He had been dead for so long, and it had been a while since his resurrection. He had not been out of the everyday sect. This was the first time he came back to the underworld, and he was naturally eager. Yes, Mr. Zheng is right. We are not roundworms in the stomach of the blood-clothed underworld sect. Why do we care what they do? Let's go and settle accounts with them directly. Pure Yang Tianzuan said immediately after listening to Zheng Pingliang's words. That's right, then let's go. Dongfang Badeo nodded. They walked toward Widow Wang's grocery store at the head of the village. When they saw the shabby grocery store, they frowned. The 3 ancestors of the blood-clothed netherworld sect were people who had seen the world. How could they eat in such a low-class place? Was there something wrong with them? However, several people still walked into the grocery store. What surprised them was that, on a table not far away, they saw the 3 ancestors of the blood-clothed underworld sect, Ancestor Netherworld, and Ancestor Ensin. However, there was another person sitting opposite them, and they didn't know what this person was doing. Of course they didn't care. Who cares what this person was doing? Irrelevant people dared to meddle in other people's business. Bosses, are you here to buy or to eat? When Widow Wang saw another group of well-dressed people, she thought that they were in cahoots with Patriarch Netherworld and the others. She thought to herself, I'm really lucky today. I'm going to make a fortune. President Qian Boguang of the Black Horse Gang took the lead. He didn't pay attention to Widow Wang. In his eyes, Widow Wang was almost the same as an ant. His purpose here was to kill the chicken to warn the monkey. He wanted to kill Ancestor Ensin and force the remaining 2 ancestors to submit. In fact, from a personal point of view, the hatred between the blood-clothed underworld sect and the president of the Black Horse Gang was not the biggest. Qian Boguang actually looked down on the dead Supreme Elder. That person was an expert of the older generation, who first stepped into the peak late stage of Heaven stage. He didn't put Qian Boguang, the president, in his eyes. Even if Qian Boguang was promoted to the peak late stage Heaven stage Great Perfection, that old thing still ignored him. To be honest, when his strength was weaker than him, Qian Boguang tolerated it. After all, although he was the president in the cultivation world, strength was respected. So, the other party ignored his orders. But now he was also an expert of the peak late stage Heaven stage Great Perfection, and the other party still had such an attitude. It was a bit problematic. Therefore, this person was dead. From Qian Boguang's point of view, he didn't need to be angry. However, from the perspective of the Black Horse Gang, this person was an expert of the peak late stage Heaven stage Great Perfection. He was the pillar of the Black Horse Gang. His death would have a huge impact on the overall strength of the Black Horse Gang. Of course, there was another point. The person who killed the elder on the stage was from the blood-clothed underworld sect. It was reasonable to say that the blood-clothed underworld sect and the Black Horse Gang were both ancient sections. They took people's money to eliminate disasters. The 2 were similar in nature, but there was no conflict in their business. Therefore, they had always appreciated each other and minded their own business. Now the blood-clothed underworld sect broke the rules first. How could Qian Boguang not be angry? Therefore this hatred was huge. Today, he must personally kill old ancestor Yin's son to restore the Black Horse Gang's face. Otherwise he would be the president for nothing. Hey, you guys, you are. Widow Wang looked at the people who entered the door. Their faces were all gloomy. Suddenly her heart trembled. Could it be that these people were not here to eat? Were they here to cause trouble? But I'm just a small shop in a mountain village. I haven't offended anyone. Why are they here to cause trouble? You stay away. We are here to find someone to settle the score. It's none of your business. Dongfang Badeo looked at Widow Wang coldly and said overbearingly, "Ah, looking for someone?" Widow Wang was shocked. In this house, besides old Lin, there were only 3 people who were dressed like them. Could it be that they were here to find those 3 people? These 3 people were really troublemakers. Don't implicate Dr. Lin. If something happened to Dr. Lin, who would the patients in the surrounding villages find for treatment? However, although she was anxious, these people were obviously not here with good intentions. Widow Wang didn't dare to say anything. She could only cough twice as a warning and let old Lin quickly leave. These people could do whatever they wanted. She could only admit that she was unlucky if the shop was destroyed. Blood-clothed underworld Yin's son, you didn't expect it, right? You hid so far away, but we still found you? Pure young Empyrean snorted coldly and looked at the only customer in this small shop. It's useless to hide. Today, we are here to avenge our dead brothers. Purine Empyrean died in your hands, right? We, the blood-clothed underworld sect, take money from others to eliminate disasters. This has always been our rule. If those who died had the same idea as you, then we wouldn't be in this business, blood-clothed old ancestor said faintly. Chapter 3276. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Qian Puguang's words were mocking Blood Cloak Ancestor. Unexpectedly, Blood Cloak Ancestor nodded seriously and said, "Yes, our Blood Cloak Underworld sect does have a strong background and a strong backer. Of course, we are not afraid that someone will come to seek revenge." Ha! Qian Puguang was slightly stunned, and then laughed even harder. Did you hear that? These 3 old things said that they had a backer, and a very powerful one at that. Ha 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 ha. I say, have you heard that the Blood Cloak Underworld sect has a strong backer? No. Dongfang Badeo simply shook his head. What about the friends from the Sun Restore Sun sect? You are one of the oldest ancient sections. Have you heard of the backer of the Blood Cloak Underworld sect? Qian Puguang turned to look at Pure Young Heavenly Venerate and continued to ask. No. Pure Young Heavenly Venerate also shook his head. Haha, Blood Cloak Ancestor, you are really funny. At this time you still want to lie to us. Do you think we will believe it again after believing that Lin Yi can fight against enemies of a higher level? Qian Boguang said mockingly. Since you have a backer, we won't kill you first. We'll give you a chance to ask for a backer. Call your backer out, and we'll talk to him. Let's see what kind of idiot dares to be your backer. Okay, that's fine. The blood-clothed ancestor nodded seriously. Then he said nothing more. After listening to Blood Cloak Ancestor's words, Qian Puguang was stunned, but he still waited patiently for Blood Cloak Ancestor to continue. However, after waiting for a long time, Blood Cloak Ancestor did not continue to say anything, so he asked impatiently, "Where is he? Your backer? Why don't you move?" "He is far away but close at hand." Blood Cloak Ancestor made an introduction gesture and pointed at Lin Dongfang. At this moment, Lin Dongfang was sitting with his back to the people. So these people had been in for so long and directly ignored him. What? Qian Puguang's eyes widened, and then he laughed until he was out of breath. Ha 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 ha. I say, you guys are not serious, right? You randomly found a country bumpkin and told me that he's your backer? Don't tell me this old farmer is your backer? Yes. Bloodcloak Ancestor nodded and said, Mr. Dongfang is the boss behind the Bloodcloak Underworld sect. Puffed. Cough cough cough. Qian Boguang almost burst out laughing. Mr. Dongfang? Don't tell me he's from the Dongfang family? The head of the Dongfang family, Dongfang Badeo, is here. Oh no, his name is Dongfang. As for his surname, You don't deserve to know. Ancestor Bloodcloak said faintly. Lin Dongfang had never revealed his name in the ancient times. Only a few people who were close to him knew his name. Really? Mr. Dongfang? Then stand up and show us why you dare to be the backer of the Bloodcloak underworld sect. Since you're the boss behind the scenes, we'll let you pay for this. Qian Peguang still did not believe that Lin Dongfang was the backer and the boss behind the scenes of the Bloodcloak underworld sect. The reason was very simple. In his opinion, the old farmer was a temporary scapegoat that the Bloodcloak underworld sect found. Perhaps Ancestor Bloodcloak and the others thought that by pushing this person out and then being killed by them, they could avoid their punishment. They underestimated their intelligence too much, didn't they? Well, since you all want to talk to me, then I'll talk to you. Lin Dongfang smiled slightly and stood up from his seat. At this moment, the laziness of a country bumpkin doctor was all gone. Instead, it was replaced by a kind of domineering and indifference of a superior. Hearing old Lin's pretentious words, Qian Peguang laughed again. Behind him, the people who came with him were basically thinking that the old farmer was a scapegoat that the Bloodcloak underworld sect found. However, the old farmer didn't know that he was going to die soon. Lin Dongfang stood up and slowly turned around. His eyes were bright and full of expression as he stared at the people who had come to the grocery store. Among them, there were unfamiliar faces and also familiar faces. For a moment he was filled with emotions. You. Why you? You are. The first person who recognized Lin Dongfang was actually Zhong Pingliang. But it was no wonder. How could he forget the person who killed him with one punch? What a terrifying memory it was. He, the Mad Dragon Ancestor, a peak late-stage heaven-class great perfection expert, was actually killed with one punch? Who would believe it? However, this had really happened and existed more than a decade ago. During the years in the tomb, the person in front of him was the Mad Dragon Ancestor's nightmare. Even after the Mad Dragon Ancestor came back to life with Zhong Pingliang's body, the person in front of him was one of the people he didn't want to see the most in his life. Yes, it was too tragic. Zhong Pingliang looked at the person in front of him and didn't even have the slightest intention of fighting back. This was the absolute difference in strength, an insurmountable moat. It was different from the grudge between him and Lin Yi. Zhong Pingliang and Lin Yi, no matter what, had the same starting line. They were both high school classmates. He felt that he had the ability to kill Lin Yi. But this person in front of him, Zhong Pingliang felt that even if he trained for 100 years, it would be a waste. Even if he really ascended to Heavenly Tao, he probably wouldn't be this person's opponent. After all, this person was said to be a Heavenly Tao master more than a decade ago, or maybe even higher. Lin Dongfang looked at Zhong Pingliang suspiciously. He didn't know this person, nor had he seen him before, but he did see the person beside him. Kuangyu, right? I haven't seen you for more than a decade. What are you doing here? Lin Dongfang smiled at Kuangyu Ancestor and asked. Ugh. Kuangyu Ancestor broke out in a cold sweat. He recognized the person in front of him. Wasn't this one of the Killer Vidra? Why was he here? Didn't he disappear? Did he bring a group of people to Jindao? But no matter how Lin Dongfang appeared here, Kuangyu Ancestor was trembling in fear. But he didn't dare to ignore Lin Dongfang's question. He had no choice, his mind raced. Kuangyu Ancestor suddenly saw the bucket of soy sauce in the grocery store and was overjoyed. He quickly said, Mr. Dongfang, I'm here to buy soy sauce. With that, Kuangyu Ancestor turned to look for Widow Wang, shouting, Lady Boss, give me some soy sauce. Sigh, this soy sauce, it's gone so quickly. Chapter 3285. Accept me as a younger brother. The reaction of the Mad Bull Patriarch made the people present stunned, and his performance finally made Dongfang Badeo, and another elder of the Black Horse Club, who was silent all the way and did not say a word, recognize Lin Dongfang. Of course, it was not that they didn't want to recognize him before, but they didn't dare to recognize him. After all, there were too many similar people in this world. They didn't want the person in front of them to be that person. If the person in front of them was that person, then he was the behind-the-scenes boss of the Bloodcloth underworld sect. Then what revenge could they take? It would be good if they could go back. This little friend, do we know each other? Lin Dongfang looked at Zhong Pingliang and asked with some doubts. Among them, except for Zhong Pingliang, Qian Boguang of the Black Horse Gang, and Pure Yang Tianzuan of the Day and Everyday Sect, he had an impression of the others. He had seen them more than 10 years ago. I. Zhong Pingliang said the word I 3 times in a row. He was so scared that his legs went soft, and his eyes went black. He fell to the ground and foamed at the mouth. He fainted from fear. Lin Dongfang was stunned. He had never seen the little friend in front of him. But this person fainted directly, which made Lin Dongfang very puzzled. Let's go out and talk. Lin Dongfang didn't want to expose his identity in the village. This was not in line with his purpose of living in seclusion. So he didn't wait for the others to speak, and took the lead to go out of the grocery store. The Bloodcloth Ancestor, the Yellow Spring Ancestor, and the Ensign Ancestor followed him out of the grocery store. The Mad Bull Ancestor looked at Zhong Pingliang, who fainted on the ground, but he wouldn't laugh at him. After all, the Big Brother, the Mad Dragon Ancestor, died under this person's fist. It was inevitable that he would be scared when he saw the person who sent him to heaven again. Picking up Zhong Pingliang, the Mad Dragon Ancestor took the lead to step out of the grocery store. As for the Pure Yang Tianzuan, although he had never talked to Lin Dongfang and had dealings with him, he had seen this person's appearance and ruthlessness from a distance, so he was also scared at this time. Seeing the Mad Bull Ancestor go out, he quickly followed. The rest, Dongfang Badeo, and the elder of the Black Horse Gang in seclusion, also followed out of the grocery store. However, the president of the Black Horse Gang, Qian Boguang, was very inexplicable at the moment. What was wrong with these people? Why didn't they speak when they saw such an old farmer from the mountains? Could it be that this old farmer was a master? However, even if this old farmer was also a master at the peak of the late stage of heaven stage, there was no need to be so afraid, right? Including this old farmer, the Bloodcloth Underworld sect only had 3 masters at the peak of the late stage of heaven stage, plus 1 master at the peak of the late stage of heaven stage. On his side, there were 4 masters at the peak of the late stage of heaven stage, plus 1 master at the peak of the late stage of heaven stage. The advantage was still very obvious. However, since everyone had left, Qian Boguang was the last to leave the grocery store with his doubts. Only Widow Wang, who had sold a bottle of soy sauce at a sky-high price, was left behind. She looked at the group of people who had left in confusion. Just now, the Mad Bull Ancestor bought a bottle of soy sauce and directly gave 100 yuan, which made Widow Wang stunned for a long time. When she came back to her senses, these people had already left. Widow Wang felt that this was a TV show. What kind of sect was this? A martial arts film? After all, these things were too far away from a rural woman like her. She never thought that these things were real, so she just threw them to the back of her mind. In her opinion, Old Lin was probably also a guest actor. Otherwise, how could these people be stunned with just a few words and not dare to speak? This must have been planned in advance in the script. Otherwise, how could a village doctor have such great ability? Thinking of the bottle of soy sauce she sold, she wondered if there would be a chance for her to appear on TV. If there were really scenes of her on TV, then she would be famous. Thinking of this, Widow Wang immediately became proud. She hummed a little tune and kept the 100 yuan. Of course, she was really ignorant. There was not even a cameraman here. So how could it be a TV show? But she had no experience, so how would she know these things? Therefore, she planned to see Old Lin again and ask him when the TV show would be aired. Lin Dongfang took the lead and walked in front. His pace was very fast. Although he was not a cultivator, his speed was not slow. Soon, he arrived at the West Star Mountain, not far from the spiritual spring water. Lin Dongfang came here with a plan. After all, there were so many people, and with his current stamina, he couldn't take them all down. At most, he could take down 2 or 3. But after that, he would have to drink the fountain water to replenish himself. Otherwise, his body would be abnormally weak like air gooden. At that time, his weakness would be exposed, so this fountain water was used to save his life. Since there was no one else here, Lin Dongfang decided to be frank. He looked at the people behind him and said, The 3 ancestors of the blood-clothed underworld sect are my servants. What they do is also tacitly approved by me. If you have any opinions, you can tell me. At this time, Pinliang had finally woken up after the long journey of Master Kuangyo. But after hearing Lin Dongfang's words, he almost fainted again. He quickly said, no objections, haha, how could we have any objections? Haha, why didn't you say so earlier? Bloody Shirt, Yellow Spring, Een Sun, you're all Mr. Dongfang's servants. Then can you take me as a servant too? Haha, a follower is fine too. I don't have any follower plans yet. Lin Dongfang looked at Pinliang, his face getting weirder and weirder. Just who was this person? Where did he come from? Pinliang's words echoed in the ears of most of the people present. It was no wonder that these people had witnessed Lin Dongfang's power in the past. But there were a few who didn't know who Lin Dongfang was. This was the leader of the Black Horse Gang, Qian Buoguang. Back then, he wasn't the leader of the Black Horse Gang yet. He was just a normal elder on a mission outside. So he wasn't afraid of Lin Dongfang at all. Pinliang might be scared shitless and wanted to be Lin Dongfang's servant. But in Qian Buoguang's eyes, Pinliang was just a strategist, a normal earth class. It wasn't surprising that he was a coward. What's wrong with you guys? Just who is this old thing? Didn't we agree to kill the gloomy elder together now? Qian Buoguang started panicking when he saw that everyone wasn't moving. Chapter 3277. He naturally didn't dare to act rashly in front of Lin Dongfang. Didn't he see how scared his senior brother was? Elder Kuangyo actually understood Pinliang's situation. He had died once in the past, and he didn't want to die again. With his current strength, he wouldn't be able to preserve his soul with the secret technique again. He would probably die for real. Little Qian, this senior Dongfang is a master. Don't be rash. The elder who hadn't said a word along the way finally spoke. But the moment he opened his mouth, he scolded Qian Buoguang. This little Qian made Qian Buoguang a little angry. If it was in the past, it would have been fine. But now, everyone was a peak late phase heaven class master. What right did he have to take advantage of his seniority? Especially in front of outsiders. How could he, the leader, endure this? So Qian Buoguang snorted coldly without thinking. What's wrong with you guys? I don't believe that even if the opponent is a peak late phase heaven class master, we don't have to be so cowardly, right? If you guys don't make a move, wait for me to kill this old man first. In Qian Buoguang's opinion, no matter how powerful Lin Dongfang was, he couldn't exceed peak late phase heaven class master. Because this was already in existence like an atomic bomb. Heavenly Dao masters couldn't exist before the Heavenly Island project started. So even if he couldn't beat him, it would at most be a draw. Moreover, the Black Horse Gang was also good at fighting. Unlike those peak late phase heaven class masters, who didn't have much combat experience, Qian Buoguang improved his strength through fighting. So, he believed that if he fought against an expert of the same level, he could gain the upper hand and not lose. Thinking of this, Qian Buoguang sneered and said, Elder in seclusion, it's fine if you're a coward. Not everyone is as cowardly as you. What senior's back? I'll kill him now. As he spoke, Qian Buoguang rushed forward. From his point of view, since Lin Dongfang was an obstacle to killing Elder Een Sun, then he would first kill this person in front of him or injure him. That would be enough. Of course, the main purpose was to establish his authority. In the Black Horse Gang, the elder in seclusion didn't even put him in his eyes. He wanted to prove that he was stronger than the elder in seclusion. Others didn't dare to make a move, but he, Qian Buoguang, dared. Little Qian, come back. The seclusion elder was shocked. He didn't expect Qian Buoguang to be so blind. In this kind of situation, he still dared to find trouble with Lin Dongfang. Wasn't he looking for death? Isn't it to show that you're capable? Do you think that all the experts here are cowards? If it wasn't for the fact that they were no match for him, who would admit defeat? Everyone here was a top-notch expert, and they wouldn't easily admit defeat. But today they were acting strangely. Wasn't this worth pondering? Even if you haven't seen Lin Dongfang, you should be able to see the situation clearly, right? However, it would have been better if the seclusion elder hadn't called him that. Now that he called him that, it was the opposite of what he wanted. A wave of anger and humiliation surged from his ribs to his brain. You still call me little money? Who is small? I'm also an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven class. Qian Boguang was incomparably angry. Because of this, he was even more eager to prove his ability. He shouted loudly and continued to attack Lin Dongfang. Not only did he not stop, but he also took out his heaven-ranked godly weapon from his waist. It was a silver snake soft sword. This kind of weapon was easy to carry and was also very useful for killing people. This was what the Black Horse Gang did. Even if Qian Boguang's godly weapon hadn't killed an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven class, it had killed an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven class. The seclusion elder was scared out of his wits. Did this Qian Boguang not want to live? Even if he didn't want to live, he didn't want to implicate the Black Horse Gang. The seclusion elder wanted to stop him, but he didn't have the strength to do so. First, both of them were experts at the peak of the late stage of heaven class. Second, if he caused Lin Dongfang to misunderstand and kill him as well, what would he do? So while he was hesitating, Qian Boguang was already close to Lin Dongfang. He was powerless to reverse the situation. Swoosh! A sharp whistle sounded. Qian Boguang attacked. The silver snake's soft sword in his hand was like a poisonous snake, slashing towards Lin Dongfang's neck, taking someone's head as soon as he attacked. This was the style of the Black Horse Gang. They didn't show mercy, they didn't attack. However, what made everyone suspicious was that Lin Dongfang stood there without dodging. It was as if he didn't notice that the silver snake's soft sword was about to take his life. Could it be that Lin Dongfang was scared silly? As soon as this thought came out, everyone rejected it. If the person in front of them was the person from back then he wouldn't be scared silly by such a small scene. The only possibility was that Lin Dongfang didn't put Qian Boguang in his eyes at all. Of course, the seclusion elder was scared, and so were Zhong Pingliang and the others. Zhong Pingliang cursed in his heart. Qian Boguang, this idiot, was he trying to kill everyone? Didn't he know that they looked like they were on the same side? Gotcha! Just when everyone had their own thoughts, the silver snake's soft sword made contact with Lin Dongfang's neck, making a crisp sound. What? Everyone couldn't believe it. Lin Dongfang didn't dodge and let the silver snake's soft sword cut his neck? Wasn't he looking for death? Even if he was a heavenly Tao master, he couldn't be invincible, could he? The silver snake's soft sword, a heavenly class divine weapon, was a precious weapon that could cut through iron like mud. Wasn't he going to lose his head? Especially that gotcha sound. Everyone thought that Lin Dongfang's head had already fallen to the ground, but what made everyone's jaws drop was that the gotcha sound wasn't Lin Dongfang's neck being cut off, but Qian Boguang's silver serpent flexible sword was broken. Boom dash! Just when everyone was shocked, Lin Dongfang finally punched. It was just a punch, a simple punch, but it hit Qian Boguang's chest, making a loud sound. As for Qian Boguang, his entire body was sent flying backwards. There was a clear, large hole in his chest, demonstrating the unimaginable power that Lin Dongfang's seemingly ordinary punch had brought about. Qian Boguang's eyes rolled back when he was in the air. When his body landed heavily on the ground far away, he couldn't be more dead. Absolute silence. Although everyone was mentally prepared for this sudden turn of events, they were still deeply shocked once again. Especially Zhong Pingliang, who opened his mouth wide and panted heavily, his whole body shaking. Because this was how he died back then. Chapter 3278. Blood Cloak Ancestor, Yellow Spring Ancestor, and Sinister Ancestor. The three ancestors of Yellow Spring sect were shocked as well, but they were the most excited. As expected, Lin Dongfang was as powerful as before, killing a peak late phase sky class master with one punch. So the power of the young master, Lin Yi, was inherited from this place. That's amazing, that's amazing. Pingliang's fear was replaced by deep admiration, a reverence that came from the bottom of his heart. He felt that he would never be able to reach such heights in his life. Plus, in the everyday sect, Mad Dragon Ancestor's second disciple, Mad Leopard Ancestor, didn't feel ashamed of being a disciple of the Killer Kong duo, but was proud of it instead, making many sects envious. Now Pinliang was envious of Blood Cloak Underworld sect. Fuck, no wonder they were so arrogant. Daring to kill anyone, they had a strong backing. Pinliang seized the opportunity and cheered loudly. Senior Dongfang, does your family know you're so arrogant? No. Lin Dongfang shook his head. Ah. Pinliang had praised Lin Dongfang thoughtlessly, thinking that Lin Dongfang was very, very strong. He hadn't expected Lin Dongfang to respond to him. He paused for a moment, then grew excited. Haha, I understand. Senior Dongfang, how about you take us in as your followers as well? Just like Blood Cloak Underworld sect. Back then, in my sect, Mad Leopard Ancestor was your disciple. We can be considered quite close. We'll see. Lin Dongfang waved his hand, not used to Pinliang's enthusiasm. Little friend, what's your name? Have we met before? Oh, Senior Dongfang. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Pinliang, and I'm currently the strategist of Everyday and Everyday sect. My words represent the Everyday and Everyday sect. Am I right, Mad Bull Ancestor? Pinliang said as he looked at Mad Bull Ancestor. Yes, Mr. Zhong is one of the decision makers of our Everyday and Everyday sect. Guangyo nodded. Pinliang was only an Earth class, but he was still his big brother. In the past, their eldest senior brother's awe and care for them were still vivid in their minds. Patriarch Guangyo and Patriarch Guanglong's relationship was actually very deep. Don't look down on the fact that the Everyday and Everyday sect was a demonic sect, but the relationship between them was even more important than some large sects and clans. This was also the reason why Heavenly Venerables Pure Yang and Pure Yin had such a good relationship. Zhong Pinliang? Lin Dongfang felt that the name was familiar. He thought about it and was slightly surprised. Wasn't this Kid Yi's enemy? Why did he want to be his little brother? It was really a little strange. Yes, Senior Dongfang can just call me Liangzi, Pinliang said quickly. Alright, we'll talk about other things later. Who else wants to settle the score with me? Lin Dongfang looked at the others. How is that possible? The retreat elder was surprisingly talkative. Senior Dongfang. Although Qian Boguang is the president of our Black Horse Gang, his actions represent himself and have nothing to do with me. Now that he is dead, I am the decision maker of the Black Horse Gang. My intention is similar to this Mr. Zhong Pinliang. You see, one sheep needs to be driven. Two sheep also need to be led. Why don't you also accept us as your little brothers? Now that we are out here, we don't feel at ease without a backer, and we don't have the courage to go out. What about you? Lin Dongfang did not respond to the retreat elder, but turned to look at Dongfang Badeo. Although Dongfang Badeo was a little dissatisfied in his heart, he did not dare to say anything at the moment. However, he would never put down his face to be a little brother. After all, apart from the elders of the Dongfang family who died, his grandson, Dongfang Buliu, died in the hands of the disciples of the Everyday and Everyday sect. Asking him to be with the Everyday and Everyday sect, he could not do such a thing. As for why the Everyday and Everyday sect wanted to be Lin Dongfang's little brother together with the blood-clothed underworld sect after the death of Master Pure Yin, perhaps it was because Master Pure Yin had no blood relationship with them after all. Moreover, the decision-maker of the Everyday and Everyday sect was Zhong Pinliang, not Master Pure Yang. In the sect, the master was the most important. Even if the relationship between the brothers was good, they could betray for the master. This was the rule in the sect, and Master Pure Yang must abide by it. The grievances between the Dongfang family and the blood-clothed underworld sect end here. Thank you, Senior Dongfang, for not killing me. I will leave first. Dongfang Badeo held his fist and said slowly. Dongfang Badeo's words made Zhong Pinliang frown. What, you mean you have nothing to do with the blood-clothed underworld sect, but you still have a grudge against Zhang Naipeo of our Everyday and Everyday sect? Old thing, whatever you want you can go and die. Now our Everyday and Everyday sect is not afraid of you. When we recognize Lin Dongfang as our boss, we are even less afraid of you, and we can kill you at any time. But at this moment, Zhong Pinliang still said in a strange tone, you really won't die if you don't seek death. Some people just want to court death. After listening to Zhong Pinliang's words, Dongfang Badeo was a little annoyed, but in front of Lin Dongfang, he did not dare to act rashly, and could only snort coldly. Snort what snort, I say Qian Boguang that idiot. We all want to recognize the boss, but he doesn't. Isn't he seeking death? Zhong Pingliang's words were insinuating. After all, Dongfang Badeo did not have the intention of recognizing the boss. Zhong Pinliang was scolding the locust. You, Dongfang Badeo was angry, but thinking of his grandson who died, he must avenge this hatred. Well, if there is nothing else, please go back. Lin Dongfang could feel his physical strength. If he killed another one, he would definitely show signs of weakness. If it was seen by others, it would not be good. Not to mention that Dongfang Badeo would not let him kill. So he continued, I am now in a state of seclusion. I hope you keep my news a secret otherwise. Otherwise, Lin Dongfang did not say it, but the people present all shuddered at the same time. Perhaps, Lin Dongfang's otherwise would be the end of Qian Boguang? Don't worry, boss, we will keep it a secret. Zhong Pinliang was the first to respond to the call. I have said that I have no intention of accepting a younger brother. Lin Dongfang said coldly, but I have a successor. If there is a chance in the future, I will introduce you, and you will be his younger brother. Chapter 3279. For Zhong Pingliang's address, Lin Dongfang was too lazy to argue. He waved his hand and motioned for everyone to leave. Seeing that Lin Dongfang let them go, everyone hurriedly left West Star Mountain Village, leaving only the Blood Cloak ancestor, the Yellow Spring ancestor, and the Ensign ancestor. I'm a little thirsty. I'm going to drink some water. You guys drink some too? Lin Dongfang casually walked to the spirit spring, then picked up a bowl of water with his hand and sent it directly into his mouth. We won't drink. The three ancestors just drank wine, and they were not thirsty at all. Besides, how could they drink the spring water found casually in the mountains? Although they felt that Lin Dongfang could not harm them, it was not good to drink something bad. Lin Dongfang did not insist, drank the water casually, and prepared to go down the mountain. Let's go back and drink 2 more cups. Okay. The three ancestors quickly nodded and said yes. The retreat elder of the Black Horse Club took Qian Boguang's body, said goodbye to Ancestor Kuangnyo, Dongfang Badeo, and others and left in a hurry. At this moment, he had no thoughts of revenge. He regretted that the Black Horse Club provoked this pool of muddy water. 2 masters of the peak of the late stage of heaven class died, and the Black Horse Club suddenly changed from a top ancient sect to a mid-range ancient sect. But who could be blamed for this? Before, the mission was not good. When you go out on a mission, you must have the awareness of death. It is impossible for everyone to be killed by you. You may also be killed by others. And Qian Boguang was completely looking for death. He called him several times, but he still couldn't see the situation clearly. Who could be blamed for this? Although the retreat elder was in retreat all year round, this time, he had to come out to take charge of the Black Horse Club. At least until the next successor was cultivated, he could continue to retreat. And Dongfang Badeo, after the retreat elder left, looked at the people of the day and everyday sect, shook his head and quickly left. Although he had a lot of hatred in his heart, he also knew that this was not the time, and he could not directly fall out with Ancestor Kuangnyo and others. Idiot! Zhong Pingliang looked at the back of Dongfang Badeo as he left, spat and scolded. Such a good opportunity to find a backer, and you don't know how to grasp it. You are really blinded by hatred. I've already been killed once, but I didn't have such a huge grudge. Eldest senior brother, this kind of person isn't worth getting angry at. Just like you said, he's courting death. If he didn't, he wouldn't have died. Ancestral Master Mad Bull nodded in agreement. He felt that after his eldest senior brother was reborn, his words were very trendy and reasonable. Lord Master, Ancestor Wild Bull, what should we do now? Heavenly Lord Pure Yang asked carefully. Although Heavenly Venerate Pure Yang was already a peak late-stage heaven rank expert, he was still very careful in front of the 2 ancestral masters, and never dared to overstep. Let's return to the sect. Pinliang waved his hand. Then what about Lin Yi's side? Heavenly Venerate Pure Yang asked carefully. We'll talk about it later. Let's wait and see what Bloodcloak Underworld sect and Lin Yi's employment rules are like. If Bloodcloak Underworld sect wants to interfere, then there's nothing we can do. Pinliang said, feeling a headache coming on. You're right, Lord Master. Heavenly Venerate Pure Yang nodded. Let's put it aside for now. The vengeance meeting that alarmed the entire ancient level actually ended anticlimactically. All the parties involved remained silent and didn't mention the result of the vengeance. However, it wasn't hard to see that the members of the vengeance meeting didn't achieve their desired goal from how the Bloodcloak Underworld sect was unscathed. However, as for what happened and what the real result was, the parties involved were all tight-lipped. Outsiders had no way of knowing. They could only guess that Bloodcloak Underworld sect wasn't a pushover. They wouldn't allow others to change their ways. In this way, Bloodcloak Underworld sect's reputation in the ancient level also rose. At least in the next few years, Bloodcloak Underworld sect had distanced itself from Black Horse Gang. When cultivators hired assassins, the first person they thought of was Bloodcloak Underworld sect, and not Black Horse Gang. Of course, it was said that the Black Horse Society had also entered a period of recuperation. Apart from some small missions, they had also stopped accepting large missions. Missions involving Earth rank and above would all be directly rejected, even if the target was at the initial stage of Heaven rank. This was enough to show the low profile of Black Horse Gang. Although everyone still didn't know what happened, there were no walls in the world that didn't have ears. The death of Black Horse Gang's president, Qian Puguang, was still spread in the ancient level. The specific cause of death was unknown. Anyway, it must be related to this vengeance plan. As a result, these people looked at Bloodcloak Underworld sect differently. Bloodcloak Underworld sect actually killed Qian Puguang? For a time, Bloodcloak Underworld sect became famous. However, the key point was that even Feng Tianhu, another member of the vengeance meeting, didn't know. No one dared to tell him the truth. No one dared to mention Lin Dongfang's matter. Hanging up the phone with Dongfang Badeo, Feng Tianhu frowned. Before this, he had already contacted the Everyday and Everyday sect in Black Horse Gang, but both did not reply to him. Instead, they hung up the phone very coldly. As for Dongfang Badeo, although he wasn't cold, he definitely didn't have a good temper. He didn't mention anything about the matter at that time. He just told Feng Tianhu to calm down and not think about finding trouble with Bloodcloak Underworld sect. If you don't want to find trouble, then don't. Anyway, I have no grievances with Bloodcloak Underworld sect. Feng Tianhu snorted coldly. His main purpose now was to rise. What medical school, Underworld sect, what Lin Yi? They had nothing to do with him. So he shook his head and began to study the next plan against Feng Tianlin and Feng Shipian. So many major events happened in the cultivation world. Lin Yi, who was far away abroad, also received a call from Gu Xian. Gu Xian, how is it? Is there any news over there? Lin Yi quickly picked up the phone and asked. Boss, now there is a rumor in the ancient world that you don't have the ability to kill experts at the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage and great perfection. You are overseas and being chased by the Overseas Cultivators Association. Gu Xian said anxiously. Well, what else? Gu Xian's news was not unexpected to Lin Yi. Lin Yi had already guessed what Gu Xian said. After all, after Cheng Yi sent back the news, Lin Yi made this plan. Moreover, it was absolutely impossible for the Overseas Cultivators Association to keep secrets for Lin Yi. Chapter 3280. Gu Xian told the news to Lin Yi in detail. By the way, they found out that the Heaven stage experts were killed by the Blood Underworld sect. Oh! Lin Yi could not help but frown. These people actually found out that it was the Blood Underworld sect. To be honest, Lin Yi felt a little sorry for the three ancestors of the Blood Underworld sect. Although the people were killed by these three, he also gained some benefits. So Lin Yi quickly asked, then did they go to the Blood Underworld sect? They should have gone, but there was no result. The people of the Blood Underworld sect were unharmed, but the president of the Black Horse Gang, Qian Puguang, died. Of course, I can't find out how he died. I only know that he died, Gu Xian said. The current situation is that the members of the Vengeance Assembly are all silent. I don't know what agreement they reached with the Blood Underworld sect in secret, but it turned into the current situation. Oh, that's really strange. Lin Yi frowned. Gu Xian, an ancient expert, did not know the inside story. Lenny did not need to rack his brains to think about it. There must be something unknown in it. But with Lin Yi's current level, he might not be able to reach it. Thinking of this, Lenny said, "Then, other than that, is there any news of them coming to me?" "Not for the time being. I don't know what the people of the Blood Underworld sect said to them, but they all stopped." Guxian said, "There is no news of any progress at the moment." "Okay, I got it. Help me pay attention to the movements of these people. If they want to find me, tell me immediately," Lenny said after pondering for a moment. Although the situation was very strange, Lenny still decided to wait for the situation to stabilize before going back. For the time being, it was better to rest here and observe. "No problem, boss," Guxian quickly said. After hanging up, Lenny wasn't in a good mood, but he didn't show it in front of Yang Qiqi and Jiao. After all, it had been so many years since he left Island X, and it was rare for Lin Yi to come back. He just wanted to have fun with the two. At least, these few days on the island, Lin Yi found the feeling of his childhood. Su Shihan and Cheng Yi were also very fond of the island's scenery. However, when they saw the teams of assassins undergoing strict training, they could guess how cruel and boring Lin Yi's childhood was. "Brother Lin Yi, I want to eat mud fish. Can you help us catch some fish today?" Yang Qiqi missed the mud fish of her childhood. Of course, she didn't know whether it was because of her childhood or the life and death experience during the Heavenly Elixir Sect trial. It was also during the Heavenly Elixir Sect trial that Yang Qiqi and Lin Yi were able to recognize each other. This mud fish could be said to be a childhood memory, and it could also be said to be the matchmaker for the two. Therefore, Yang Qiqi had special feelings for it. "Okay, I'll go now." Lin Yi smiled and nodded. This mud fish was also very particular in making it. It must be made with yellow mud from the river. Although the fish supplied on Island X could be used to make it, there was no mud, and the taste of wild fish and raised fish was also different. "It's more dangerous over there. You guys don't need to go. I'll go alone," Lin Yi said to everyone. Although with Yang Qiqi and Cheng Yi's skills, there was still Jiao and Su Shihan. Lin Yi couldn't let them stay here, so he went alone. "Okay, brother Lin Yi, be careful," Yang Qiqi said. She was also the owner of Island X, so naturally, she couldn't ignore the guests just because she wanted to go catch fish with Lin Yi. Lin Yi nodded and quickly walked in the direction of the jungle of the back island. On the way, Lin Yi was filled with emotions. The familiar path, the familiar environment. However, he hadn't been back here for more than 10 years. Now when Lin Yi walked this road, it was still as familiar as when he was a child. Coming to the river with ease, Lin Yi plunged into the river and began to catch fish. However, after Lin Yi caught a fish, he suddenly realized that he forgot to bring a bucket. It was okay to catch 1 or 2 fish, and he could carry it back directly, but there were so many people, and everyone's appetite was good. At least 10 or 20 fish had to be killed. Moreover, this fish was not big. How was Lin Yi going to take it back? Going back to get the bucket, Lin Yi didn't want to bother too much. Suddenly Lin Yi had an idea. Didn't he have the space of the jade pendant? How good would it be to put the fish directly in it? Lin Yi had put food in the jade space before, but the food was still in the jade space. In other words, the state of the food was still the moment it was cooked. When he took it out, it was still hot and fresh. So Lin Yi planned to put the live fish in the jade space. This way, if he brought it back, it would still be fresh. With that thought, Lin Yi wanted to put the fish in his hand into the jade space. But what surprised Lin Yi was that the fish was still in Lin Yi's hand. It didn't enter the jade space. This was the first time this had happened. Could it be that the jade space wasn't working? Lin Yi paused and subconsciously wanted to put the fish in his hand into the jade space again. But again it failed. There was no fish in the jade space, and the fish in Lin Yi's hand didn't disappear. It's really strange. Lin Yi frowned and tried to use his mind to take out a spirit beast's chi inner pellet from the jade space. This chi inner pellet was successfully taken out from the jade space. Lin Yi moved his mind again, and the chi inner pellet returned to the jade space again. In this way, it was certain that the jade space didn't fail, but something went wrong. Could it be that the thing that was put in was different? "Jiaolao, why can't I put my fish in the jade space?" Lin Yi asked curiously. A living thing? Of course not, Elder Jiao said with a straight face. Living thing? Aren't you and I alive? Linny was slightly stunned and asked. You and I are not in a normal state. Your spirit entered the jade space, and I'm almost the same. It's not a real body. Jiao Lao said. There is no oxygen here. How can a living thing survive in here? So that's the case. Can I only put the fish in the jade space after it's dead? Linny thought about it and asked. Chapter 3281. Temporarily? Does that mean I can put living things in here in the future? Linny heard something special in Jiao Lao's tone. I remember, after the jade space was upgraded, it had such a function. But your level is not high enough. The stone door is not open. And my memory is not fully recovered. So I can only say this much. Jiao Lao said. Oh, that is to say, even if I continue to refine the jade space, I will not be able to achieve this function? Linny thought for a while and asked. Yes, if you continue to refine the jade space, you will only be able to expand the capacity of the jade space, but you will not be able to upgrade its function. Jiao Yazi said with certainty this time. All right, these few days, Linny had planned to use the blue crystal and the remaining pure yellow jade and colored steel to refine the jade space. But now, it seemed that refining it would only expand the storage capacity of the jade space and not change its function. This made Linny a little disappointed, so he temporarily gave up the idea of refining it. Forget it. Then I will use the remaining materials to refine the profound chi necklace. These few days, Linny couldn't decide whether to continue refining the jade space or the profound chi necklace. Refining the jade space, Linny was 90% sure. With his previous experience, he could make it 100% successful. But the profound chi necklace was different. Although the profound chi necklace could be made by a first-level yellow-class blacksmith, in Lin Yi's opinion, since the lowest-level blacksmith was the yellow-class blacksmith, since he could refine the jade space, he should be a yellow-class blacksmith. In theory, he could refine the profound chi necklace. Of course, this was just theory crafting. In reality, unexpected things could happen, and it wasn't something Lin Yi could control. There was a certain amount of risk involved, and if the materials were wasted, the necklace wouldn't be completed. Lin Yi's trip to the ocean would be a complete waste, and it wouldn't be worth it. But now, it seemed that it was better to refine the profound chi necklace. The jade space wasn't big, but it was enough for Lin Yi. Lin Yi couldn't carry everything around with him, and there was no need for that. Since the jade space couldn't hold live fish, Lin Yi had no choice but to take off his shirt and use it as a net in the water. He put all the fish into it and hung it by the river. After that, he went back to fishing, catching 20 fish in one breath. Only then did he carry his dripping shirt back to the lawn, where he was chatting with Chi-Chi and the others. Ah, Lin Yi bro, you're using your shirt to hold fish? Young Chi-Chi was a little surprised. Although Lin Yi's bare upper body made her blush a little, the two had lived together since young, and she was used to it. Su Shirhan and Cheng Yi, on the other hand, lived in Lin Yi's villa. It was inevitable that Lin Yi would wear a little less, but he had never worn so little. The two were a little shy, but because they liked Lin Yi they didn't scream. Little Nine, on the other hand, looked at Lin Yi's muscles with interest. Lin Yi bro, I didn't think that your body is so good now. Sigh, I'm afraid that my body is the worst here. Little Nine's words made Lin Yi pause. But looking at Little Nine's skinny body, Lin Yi felt pain in his heart. Yes, all these years, he had been avoiding Little Nine, but he had neglected her feelings. Little Nine was different from normal people. She could only sit in a wheelchair, and she didn't exercise. Her body was very thin, and even after so many years, she was still like a little girl. Her chest and whatnot were very developed. Little Nine, you are. Lin Yi looked at Su Shirhan and Cheng Yi, but he didn't hide it. These two, Lin Yi could trust them. You're an inheritor. When you become a practitioner, not only will your body be very good, but your strength will also be higher than mine. Haha, yes, fortunately I have this opportunity. Little Nine smiled. Going to the Yellow Earth High Sect was her opportunity, but it was also a challenge. The future had become uncertain. Not long after I will leave. My brother. Tu Ba Wang will come to pick me up. Lenny bro, will you send me off? And I will. Lenny nodded without hesitation. Although there were a lot of troubles on Lin Yi's body, and the balance between him and the ancient sex could be broken at any time, but Lenny also knew that this farewell. He didn't know when he could see little Nine again. Lenny must send her off. I'm just saying, Lenny bro, you don't have to send me off. I know it's not easy for you to come overseas. The Overseas Cultivators Association is currently your enemy. Little Nine shook her head and didn't wait for Lenny to speak before saying, Okay, let's make some mud fish. Lenny was silent for a moment, but he didn't say anything. But he had already made up his mind. Now, although Lin Yi's strength was at the peak of the early phase of the heaven rank, he could truly kill a peak mid-heaven rank expert. When Lin Yi was at the early phase of the heaven rank, although he couldn't instantly kill Dongfang Jian, he could still get rid of him when he was injured. Now that Lin Yi was at the peak of the early phase of the heaven rank, he could naturally kill a peak mid-heaven rank expert. As for whether he could kill a peak late heaven rank expert, it was still unknown. At present, Lin Yi had only fought with He Tianzu, a peak late heaven rank expert. He could only injure him, but he couldn't kill him. But he hadn't fought a peak late heaven rank expert yet. However, Lin Yi believed that if the Essence Necklace's records were true, he would be able to increase his strength by a whole level after wearing the Essence Necklace. Whether it was his offensive or defensive abilities, they would all increase correspondingly. In other words, after wearing the Essence Necklace, Lin Yi would be equivalent to a peak mid-heaven rank expert. And at that time, it would be very easy for Lin Yi to instantly kill a peak late heaven rank expert. This way, Lin Yi's strength had increased yet again, and he had more cards up his sleeves. He wouldn't be caught off guard when he returned. Of course, facing a sky-class late phase peak, Lin Yi might not be able to win, but he would be able to heavily injure them if he caught them off guard. He Tianzu wouldn't be lightly injured. Thus, this Essence Necklace seemed to be an important thing. Chapter 3282. Secondly, he needed to get himself to Sky-class mid-phase as soon as possible. If he was Sky-class mid-phase, then the necklace would be like adding wings to a tiger. With that in mind, Lin Yi looked at Chi-Chi. Xiao Qi, can you get a Qi-gathering pill? Qi-gathering pill. Chi-Chi paused. Lin Yi bro, you need it? But, doesn't it say that you won't be able to level up on your own after eating it? Young Chi-Chi wasn't a spiritual practitioner, but she had some basic knowledge. Haha, I'm a little special. I can level up after eating it. Lin Yi didn't hide it. It wasn't a secret after all. Everyone around Lin Yi knew about it. Xiao Qi, doesn't the association provide free pills to their members? Do you have the right to get one? Lin Yi turned his attention to the association. If Tang Yuqi could get a Qi-gathering pill from the association, then Chi-Chi should be able to as well, right? As long as you're a member of the association, you have the right to get one. As long as your strength reaches the corresponding level, you can apply for it. Chi-Chi explained. But I'm a physical practitioner, there's no way I can get a Qi-gathering pill. That's fine. You can practice both internal and external. Lin Yi said. If your spiritual strength reaches Earth-class late-phase peak, then would you be able to get a Qi-gathering pill? That's for sure, Chi-Chi said with certainty. But after receiving it, if you successfully break through to Sky class, you'll have to become an elder of the association. It's impossible for you to leave the association like Tang Yuqi did. There are pros and cons to this too. It's free, but it's still like selling your body. Chi-Chi said with certainty. What if you don't succeed? Lin Yi asked. After all, a Qi-gathering pill could allow an Earth-class late-phase peak to break through to Sky-class early phase. But it wasn't 100% success. There was a chance of failure, just a small one. If you don't succeed, you can apply for it again half a year later. But that's your last chance. Chi-Chi said. There have been failures in the association, but they all succeeded the second time. I see. Then can you help me apply for a Qi-gathering pill? Lin Yi was a little excited after hearing Chi-Chi's words. This was what he wanted. It wasn't realistic for Lin Yi to rely on Kong Mingming pill, especially now that Lin Yi's true strength was exposed. A snobbish person like Kong Mingming wouldn't care about him at all. so Lenny had to think on his own. But it sounds easy, but it's very difficult. My father left me a spiritual practitioner's arts, but I still put all my effort into it. I don't have any foundation for it at all. Chi-Chi smiled bitterly. Even if I start training now, I don't know when I'll be able to reach Earth class late phase peak. Lenny bro, I'm afraid I won't be able to help you with this. Haha, don't worry, we can start now. Lenny smiled. Do you remember the spiritual practitioner's arts? Can you recite it? If you can, we can start now. Now? What do you mean train here? Chi-Chi's eyes were wide, not understanding what Lenny meant. Yes now, but I'll be the one helping you. Lenny said. I can help other people level up quickly. It's just that we parted in a hurry last time, so I didn't get the chance to help you. This is a good chance. You'll help me level up? Chi-Chi was even more shocked. Lenny bro, you're saying that you can help me level up to Earth class late phase peak? That's right, that's it. Lenny nodded. All you need to do is practice the arts, leave the rest to me. Really? Chi-Chi was a little surprised, but she still said, but there's no rush. If I become an Earth class late phase peak right now, even the association would start suspecting me. I need to take it step by step, so it's best for me to level up to Earth class early phase now. I'll show up at the association and let them prepare themselves. You're right. Lenny nodded solemnly. He'd only considered the possibility of getting a chi-gathering pill from the association, but he didn't consider the possibility of the association suspecting Chi-Chi. Of course, if Chi-Chi could level up step by step, that was something the association would be happy to see as well. After all, one more master meant one more power. They wouldn't have gone to all that trouble to keep Tang Yuqi around. And so, as long as he did it right, getting 2 chi-gathering pills wasn't impossible. But the second pill had to be given to Chi-Chi herself, or the association would definitely suspect something. Chi-Chi had leveled up so quickly before, and that was enough to show that she was quite talented. If she didn't level up after 1 or 2, then there would be a problem. Lenny wouldn't need to be afraid of the association if he took 2 chi-gathering pills. But Lenny couldn't stay overseas for long. Could he? Chi-Chi's base was overseas too, and Lenny didn't want to cause trouble for her. Then I'll raise you to Earth class early phase first. Lenny nodded. Alright, I just need to chant the practitioner's arts, right? Chi-Chi asked. Yes, leave the rest to me. Lenny said. As long as he didn't forcefully compress his chi to break through, then his clothes wouldn't explode. Lenny didn't have to worry about Chi-Chi running around naked. Chi-Chi started chanting, and Lenny grabbed her wrist and started chanting as well. Under everyone's curious gaze, Lin Yi's chi flowed into Chi-Chi's body. Shirhan and Cheng-Yi, on the other hand, were a bit weaker. After all, they had already witnessed Lin Yi's miraculous power back at the orphanage. However, it was still a little shocking for someone who had no spiritual training whatsoever to rise all the way to Earth class early phase. Chapter 3283. If Lenny could mass-produce Sky-class masters, then who in the ancient world would be a match for Lenny? Cheng-Yi was glad that she made the choice. Otherwise, she would have to follow Feng Tianhu to the end. Nothing good would come out of that, right? Little Nine was shocked as well. She and Lenny had been separated for so many years, but they had always kept in contact. She thought that she understood Lin Yi's situation very well, but it seemed that she didn't understand Lin Yi at all. Lin Yi had a lot of miraculous things that she didn't even know about. When did he get these miraculous abilities? Of course, the one who was the most shocked was young Chi-Chi herself. She channeled her practitioner's arts, and felt that her strength was growing like a force-fed duck. From a physical practitioner without any spiritual foundation, she rose all the way to early phase of golden class. And it was still growing. Early phase of golden class, peak. All the way to early phase of earth class, young Chi-Chi felt like she was dreaming. In such a short period of time, she went from nothing to something. Her strength had such a huge increase. This completely overturned young Chi-Chi's understanding of practitioners. Based on her previous understanding, which cultivation expert did not take one step at a time to get to where he was now, there had never been anyone who could become an earth class early phase master in just one afternoon without any inner strength. This was probably one of a kind, wasn't it? Everyone present, other than Su Shihan, felt the change in Yang Qiqi's strength. Because Yang Qiqi was channeling her practitioner's arts, her strength was directly exposed. Little Nine didn't have much strength, but he'd been exposed to practicing when he was young, so he could still recognize a practitioner's aura. Changyi, on the other hand, was quite shocked as well. How did Qiqi become the same as her in the blink of an eye? Changyi felt the urge to cry. One had to know that it wasn't easy for her to get to where she was right now. She'd been trained by Feng Tianhu since she was young, and all she did was train and train. That was how she got to where she was today. But look at Yang Qiqi. She'd become an Earth-class early phase the moment she got close to Lin Yi. Am I dreaming? Yang Qiqi's question was what everyone else wanted to ask. Haha, you can go to the association now and announce the news. As for the reason, you'll have to figure it out yourself. I don't really know much about the overseas world. Lin Yi said to Qiqi. Yeah, I know. I'll just say that my family told me to keep it a secret. But I've hit a bottleneck at Earth class, so I'm here to look for some resources. Qiqi said, finding an excuse very quickly. After all, her family was different from other practitioners. It was reasonable for them to have this rule. The association wouldn't say much. All right, get moving then. I'll continue to help you when you get back. Lin Yi said. Yes, I'll go tomorrow. Qiqi nodded. Lin Yi was about to get up when he raised his head to see the envious Changyi beside Qiqi. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seemed that this girl wanted him to help her level up as well, but she was too embarrassed to ask. I'll help you level up to Earth class late phase peak too. Lin Yi had gone from being wary of Changyi to trusting her now. Lin Yi could feel that Changyi liked him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have betrayed Feng Tianhu. After all, Feng Tianhu still had her brother's trump card. Now that Lin Yi had revealed his true strength, Changyi couldn't put all her hopes on Lin Yi anymore. Changyi still supported Lin Yi. This touched Lin Yi. At the very least, Changyi was sincere. She wasn't just trying to get on his good side. She wanted him to save her brother. Changyi froze after hearing Lin Yi's words. Actually, back in the orphanage, Changyi had wanted Lin Yi to help her get stronger, but she was too embarrassed to ask. Their relationship wasn't that good back then, and she didn't succeed in seducing Lin Yi. She gave up. After all, she knew that the relationship between her and Lin Yi wasn't as good as it seemed on the surface. Perhaps Lin Yi was still guarding against her, but she didn't think that Lin Yi would take the initiative to bring this matter up. Changyi, of course, didn't know that her loyalty to Lin Yi had earned her a good impression from Lin Yi. She thought that Lin Yi was being nice. Really? Changyi was at a loss. She looked at Lin Yi and couldn't believe it. Of course it's true. You're one of us now. It's reasonable for me to help you get stronger. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, Okay, let's begin. Changyi saw that Lin Yi was so straightforward, so she didn't hesitate anymore. She reached out her hand and handed it to Lin Yi. And so, under everyone's numb gazes, Lin Yi raised Changyi's strength to Earth-class late-phase peak as well. At night, Lin Yi didn't care about Qiqi and Changyi's excitement. He greeted everyone and went into isolation to study the Essence Necklace. He took out the Essence Necklace book from the Jade Space and flipped through it carefully. He'd read it once when he first started forming the forging fire. The golden-class blacksmith's practitioner's arts were too hard to practice, so he'd given up on it for now. But now, Lin Yi was familiar with the Jade Space, and the Essence Necklace only required a golden-class blacksmith. As far as Lin Yi was concerned, if he could create a Jade Space, he should be able to create an Essence Necklace as well. Lin Yi continued reading the refining method. The basic requirement for condensing is a blacksmith. Blacksmith? Lin Yi smiled. It had been a headache for Lin Yi when he first got the book. But now Lin Yi could give it a try. Life really was unpredictable. Many things could be solved with the passage of time. Then he continued to read. Base material required for refining. A piece of high-grade jade pendant. Chapter 3284. Jiaolao. It's written here that a jade pendant is required to refine a profound qi necklace. I wonder if my jade pendant can be used for refining? Lenny asked. It was better to ask Jiao Yazi about this kind of thing. Lenny didn't dare to make a decision on his own. Of course it can. Jiao Yazi didn't play dumb this time. Instead, he said with certainty. From the refining method, a small space in the jade pendant was expanded to store the 5 spiritual qi inner elixirs. Therefore, your jade pendant won't be damaged. You can refine it without worry. Even if you don't succeed, the jade pendant won't be damaged. At most, your spiritual qi inner elixir will be destroyed. It's painful to have my spiritual qi inner elixir destroyed. Lenny smiled bitterly. Lenny had spent a lot of effort to collect these 5 spiritual qi inner elixirs. Lenny would be very sad if they were destroyed just like that. It's better than having my jade pendant destroyed, isn't it? Jiao Lao asked with a smile. That's true. Lenny nodded. After preparing the 5 spiritual qi inner elixirs, pure topaz, blue crystal and colored steel, Lenny took a deep breath and started to refine the profound qi necklace. Although the jade pendant wouldn't be damaged if it wasn't refined successfully, all the materials would be destroyed. Lenny had spent a lot of effort to collect these materials. For this blue crystal, Lenny almost lost his life. Therefore, it was impossible for him to be careless. After carefully reading the instructions of the profound qi necklace several times, Lenny carefully placed the colored steel, pure topaz and blue crystal in a certain proportion on the ground. Then he took off the jade pendant on his neck. Before making the necklace, Lenny once again read the instructions on how to condense the profound qi necklace several times. Of course, the instructions were relatively simple, not much different from condensing the space inside the jade pendant, but there were a few more steps. Fortunately, Lenny had the experience of successfully condensing the jade pendant space in one try, so this time he could successfully condense it. The first step of condensing was exactly the same as condensing the space inside the jade pendant. Of course, what Lenny used was also the mantra he used to condense the space inside the jade pendant, not the mantra he used to condense the profound qi necklace. Because the mnemonic chant was too complicated, Lenny didn't have the confidence to learn it, nor did he want to try. Fortunately, the beginning of the condensation was very smooth. It was the same feeling as the first time Lin Yi condensed the space in the jade pendant. Lin Yi's hands kept condensing the forging fire, and from time to time, he also needed to use his hands to change the shape of the auxiliary materials, and then fuse them with the jade pendant. After repeating this several times and a certain amount of time, he finally reached the most important step, which was completely different from condensing the space inside the jade pendant. Because the space needed for the 5 profound qi inner elixirs was very small, it didn't take much time and materials. Previously, when Lenny was at home, it took him 3 days to condense the space inside the jade pendant. But now, it only took him less than a day to enter the second step. The second step was to fuse the profound qi inner elixirs into the space inside the jade pendant. Although Lenny had 7 profound qi inner elixirs, 1 was given by Go Huli's lion, 2 were obtained in the Wulong Haut mountain range, 1 was given by the Qian mountain sect, 1 was given by the ghost, 1 was exchanged with a heaven stage cultivator in the cultivator's market, and the last one was picked up by the Sky Thunder Pig in the Heavenly Elixir Sect's trial. However, among them, the profound qi inner elixir, given by the ghost, was obviously very different from the other profound qi inner elixirs. Moreover, the ghost didn't let him use it, so it wasn't appropriate for Lin Yi to use it casually. As for the remaining 6, he could use them to make the profound qi necklace. However, Lin Yi only prepared 5, and kept the extra 1 first. Lin Yi was afraid that he would fail this time, and lose 6 profound qi inner elixirs at once, so he kept 1 as a backup. If he succeeded, it wouldn't be too late to make another one in the future. This step was actually the most difficult one, because not only did he have to put the 5 profound qi inner elixirs into the space of the jade pendant, he had to fix them at a certain point in the space of the jade pendant, so that the 5 profound qi inner elixirs could form a cycle of 5 elements, and each of them could be fixed at its own supporting point in the space of the jade pendant, without any deviation at all. However, in fact, Lin Yi had a great advantage. Other blacksmiths didn't have the same connection with the jade pendant as Lenny did. That was to say, when a blacksmith put the profound chi inner elixir into the space of the jade pendant, it was completely based on his feeling and proficiency. Whether it could be successfully fixed at the supporting point or not depended entirely on luck. If it was unsuccessful, it would be a waste of a profound chi inner elixir. This profound chi inner elixir, which couldn't be fixed at the supporting point, couldn't be taken out of the space of the jade pendant, and could only be discarded. However, Lin Yi was different. To Lin Yi's surprise, not only could he see the scene in the space of the jade pendant, but for the first time, Lin Yi could actually take out the profound chi inner elixir from the space of the jade pendant after it was not fixed at the supporting point. This was also because the way to refine the small space was the same as the way to refine the space of the jade pendant. Of course, Lin Yi could also use his consciousness to control the space of the jade pendant. In this way, Lin Yi's work was much easier. If he couldn't place it properly, he could place it again. Although it was a little slow, he succeeded every time. Lin Yi simply put the remaining sixth profound chi inner elixir on the supporting point of the fire attribute. Every time he added in profound chi inner elixir of a spirit beast, the probability of increasing defense and attack would be higher. When Lin Yi put the profound chi inner elixir on the supporting point of the fire attribute, it meant that when Lin Yi used the fire attribute martial arts, the probability of making the move more powerful would be higher, and the probability of defending against the fire attribute attack would also be higher. When the supporting points of the 5 elements were fixed, adding the profound chi inner elixir on any of the supporting points would improve the ability of the corresponding attribute. This made Lin Yi very excited. Unexpectedly, all the 6 profound chi inner elixirs were successfully integrated. 5 days were spent nervously in the refining process. Lin Yi was very nervous. He followed the instructions step by step and carried out the operation step by step. However, the heavens did not disappoint those who worked hard. Finally, on the evening of the 5th day, Lin Yi completed all the refining steps. Looking at the jade pendant in front of him, which had returned to its original appearance, Lin Yi also slowly put away the forging fire. The profound chi necklace was finally refined successfully. Chapter 3285. Previously, it was written in the instructions that this essence chi necklace had a 30% chance of increasing the power of defense and attack. However, after adding an essence chi niden, it could increase the chance of fire attribute by 50%. In the future, adding an essence chi niden would increase the chance by 20% and so on. A 50% chance didn't necessarily mean that he'd be able to increase his attack and defense, but it was still much stronger than before, and Lin Yi was very satisfied. Lin Yi didn't bother testing the necklace. He hung it around his neck and walked out of the room. In these 5 days, no one had bothered Lin Yi, but Lin Yi was worried about Yang Qiqi the most. He didn't know how she was doing. In theory, Yang Qiqi's trip to the association shouldn't be dangerous, but who knew if Lua would do anything after that incident with the red conch? Fortunately, when Lin Yi came out of the room, he saw Yang Qiqi, Little Nine, Su Shirhan, and Cheng Yi chatting about something. When they saw Lin Yi come out, they shut their mouths at the same time. Evidently, the topic was related to Lin Yi, but Lin Yi didn't have the mood to gossip. He let out a breath of relief when he saw that Yang Qiqi was safe. Xiao Qi, you've been to the association? How was it? Yeah, I came back 2 days ago. Qiqi, on the other hand, was quite relaxed. The people from the association were quite surprised that I'm an Earth-class early-phase practitioner, but considering the special nature of my family, they didn't think too much about it. But I could tell that the elders were quite happy about it. After all, I didn't need any training resources to get to Earth-class early phase. It wasn't easy at all. With talent like this, there's a chance for me to break through to Sky class. Lin Yi nodded. It seemed that there was a reason why Yang Qiqi was doing so well overseas. At least, from what Lin Yi saw, Yang Qiqi wasn't as useless as she was when he first met her. Perhaps Yang Qiqi's level of experience was different from his. As long as they didn't suspect you, No, they didn't. After all, I didn't hide my strength from them, so they were very happy. Chi-Chi shook her head. They understand me. And they even gave me a few chi-gathering pills as training resources. Oh, it seems that the Overseas Cultivators Association is quite generous. Lenny could not help but sigh. The Overseas Cultivators Association treated their members very well. If it wasn't for their overbearing style, they could have been friends. However, Hiluadu's patriarchal style was difficult to accept. The Overseas Cultivators Association isn't a sect with a deep foundation. Everyone who joins the association is like a customer of the sect. If there's no benefit, why would we gather people together? Chi-Chi said. Everyone will only stay in the association if they get a taste of the sweetness. Lenny couldn't help but nod after hearing that. Indeed, the Overseas Cultivators Association was more like a group of experts recruited by clans, rather than a large sect that had disciples to pass on. An organization like this that was developed in a short period of time still had its flaws. Did you see Hiluadu this time? Lenny asked. No, I heard that he's in isolation. He won't be coming out for a while. But this kind of thing doesn't need the chairman to do it. The elders can make the decision. Chi-Chi said. Lenny was taken aback. He wanted to ask how Luadu was doing. After all, Lenny left after setting up a trap, and he didn't know if Hiluadu would fall for it. He wanted to get some information about Hiluadu through Chi-Chi, but who would have thought that he'd be in isolation? What did that mean? Was the deal a success or a failure? What was he doing in isolation? But these were secrets that Lin-Yi couldn't tell Chi-Chi about. He could only let it go and continue helping Chi-Chi get to Earth-class late-phase peak. In actuality, Hiluadu didn't go into isolation at all. He was heavily injured, and he was recovering in a secret room. After all, what good could come out of a fight between two Sky-class late-phase peak masters? It was either one of them die or the other survive. The best outcome would be for both of them to be heavily injured, and this was the best-case scenario. After coming back, Hiluadu laid on his sickbed. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something wasn't right. He wasn't an idiot. It was fine if he was impulsive at the time, but after thinking about it, there were a lot of suspicious points. Hiluodan thought about it again and again. There was no doubt that he had brought a suitcase of money with him, not to mention that he had been carrying the suitcase. Even if the suitcase was around him, with his current strength, it would be impossible for him to take the money from the suitcase under his nose. As for swapping, that was even more impossible. Hiluonan also carefully looked at the suitcase after he came back, and there was no doubt that it was his. There was no possibility of swapping, but how could the money just disappear into thin air? What the hell? Plus, that Songshan orphanage was something Hiluodu had never heard of in his life. He really did think that Red Conch was trying to scam him with a fake account. But after thinking about it, he realized that Red Conch wasn't crazy. If they wanted to scam money, they could just scam someone else. Those drug dealers had money, so why would they scam him, the head of the association? Even an idiot would know that he wasn't someone to mess with. And this guy was using such a stupid method to scam him. It didn't seem possible. As far as Hiluodu was concerned, the money could be scammed any way they wanted. There was no need to get it from him. Besides, this wasn't a one-time deal, and they would have to work together again in the future. It wasn't like Red Conch hadn't seen money before. While Hiluodan realized that something was wrong, the general manager also realized that something was wrong. After all, he felt that there was no need for Hiluodan to put on such a show. He brought an empty box to trade, and then entered his account to transfer the money. Wasn't this just looking for trouble? What was the point of coming to Red Conch's headquarters and doing this kind of low-level scam? Did he think that he could get the drugs? The result was a lose-lose situation, and no one got the upper hand. So the CEO felt that unless Hiluodu had nothing better to do, he wouldn't do such a meaningless thing. Yes, my boss, Fanny quickly replied. Secretary Liu also nodded in agreement. The two of them left the general manager's office and went to the surveillance room to check the video. However, in terms of suspicious characters, besides the Yi Ling, who came the day before, There were no other suspicious people. The others were basically old customers. They all had historical cooperation, so they were excluded. Only this Yiling's identity was extremely suspicious. He claimed to be the purchasing manager of the Buffon family's hotel group. In reality, there was no such person at all. Secretary Liu also had a very deep impression of him. Fanny, take a screenshot of Yiling and the person who impersonated me and compare them. Secretary Liu said. Okay, little Liu, are you suspecting this Yiling? Fanny quickly operated. Her computer skills were not bad. She easily took a screenshot of the two people's images. And yes, I suspect that this person is the person who impersonated me. He is the most suspicious. Secretary Liu nodded. Hiss. Fanny took a screenshot of the two people's images. After comparing them, she realized that other than the difference in appearance, the two people were shockingly similar in terms of body and height. These two people were practically the same person. It's him. Secretary Liu slammed the table and stood up. He said with certainty, I'll report to the general manager now. Fanny quickly stood up and went to find the general manager. This was also a good opportunity to clear her name. Otherwise, although the general manager felt that it was someone else who did it, she and Secretary Liu would still be a little suspicious. Very soon, the general manager who received the news ran over. When he saw the comparison images on the computer screen, he frowned. He was now 100% sure that he had been tricked. However, what was Yiling's identity? Looking at Yiling's appearance, he should be Asian. President he of the Overseas Cultivators Association was also Asian. Then could there be any connection between the two? It was no wonder that the general manager was suspicious. After all, this incident happened too coincidentally. This transaction with the Overseas Cultivators Association was only known by him, Fanny, Secretary Liu, Liu Te, and a few other core people. Then there was only He Luodan himself. This Yiling obviously knew the news in advance. On the first day he came to survey the terrain. On the second day, when it was time for the transaction, he directly came to the general manager's office to do something. If this person wasn't He Luodan's man, even the general manager himself felt that things couldn't be so coincidental. Give me the phone, I want to talk to He Luodan. Although the general manager's injury hadn't healed, after taking the recover pill, he was more or less recovered. He could still move around in the wheelchair, but it was a little inconvenient for him to take the phone. Okay. Fanny quickly passed the phone to the general manager. At that moment, the general manager's only thought was to question He Luodan and ask him if he was the one behind this scene. The phone was quickly connected. He Luodan's angry voice came from the other side of the phone. What do you want? What do you want? I can tell you that I have investigated the matter clearly. I have the surveillance video as proof. Don't say that this person wasn't sent by you. There is no such coincidence in this world. The general manager scolded him. What are you talking about? Who was sent by me? What surveillance video? Are you crazy? Why? Do you think that I wanted to cheat you of your drugs? Is there something wrong with me? Did I cheat you of your drugs? He Luodan coldly snorted. Chapter 3287. Let's see. He Luodu's phone indicated that he had received an email, so he hung up the phone and opened the email. However, when He Luodu saw it, his expression instantly became incomparably horrified. Linny, why did this kid actually appear in the Red Conch headquarters? And on the day of the transaction, the Secretary Liu that came was Lin Yi's impersonation? This video had been clearly recorded by Fanny, so He Luodu didn't have to spend much effort at all. It was clear at a glance. However, He Luodu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Did the general manager treat Lin Yi as his own person? He Luodu dialed the general manager's phone number again. Before he could speak, the general manager questioned him. How is it? Did you catch him red-handed? You didn't expect me to have such a strict recording here. And our analysis and reasoning are also very exquisite, right? Do you dare to say that this person isn't from your Overseas Cultivators Association? Wait a minute. He Luodu interrupted the general manager's words impatiently and said coldly. First of all, I want to state one thing. I know this person. But he is definitely not from our Overseas Cultivators Association. You know him? Not from your Overseas Cultivators Association? The general manager snorted. Can't you say something more convincing? Don't interrupt me first. What I want to say is that this person is not only your enemy, but also mine. His name is Lin Yi, and he once killed an elder of our Overseas Cultivators Association. A few days ago, he was chased by our Overseas Cultivators Association. This isn't a secret. You can ask around, and you will know the details. Nuclear Luodu said. Really? The general manager was slightly stunned. The name Lin Yi seemed a bit familiar. Where did I hear it before? Of course it's true. And I understand what you mean. Don't you think that I sent someone to scout ahead, and then do some tricks to cheat you of your drugs? Luodu asked. Yes, why? The general manager was slightly stunned. Then why do I have to do this? I can just carry the empty box and change my account. Why do I need to send another person? Isn't it unnecessary? Moreover, this is simply not feasible. Luonan said. Do you think I need to do this? This? The general manager thought about it. What Luodan said was very reasonable. He had previously made a mistake, thinking that Ling was Luodan's man. But now that he thought about it carefully, Luodan did not need to do that. Moreover, whether Ling's name was Lin Yi or not, whether he was an enemy of the Overseas Cultivators Association, the general managers only needed to investigate, and the truth would soon be revealed. All right, I'll go and investigate. If this matter is really a misunderstanding, then I'll give you the drugs in this transaction as an apology. The general manager was straightforward. After all, the trading site was his company. If there was a problem, it could only be his own problem. He could still afford to lose. Oh, thank you very much. I'll be waiting for your good news. Luodan didn't expect the general manager to be this easygoing. It surprised him a little, and his heavy heart felt a lot better now. Also, what made him feel relieved was that Lin Yi and Yang Qiqi really had nothing to do with each other. Lin Yi didn't even look for Yang Qiqi. Instead, he escaped to Ruele to town, and somehow heard about the deal between Luodan and Red Conches, and went to cause trouble. Luodan didn't think that Lin Yi was after Red Conches. He thought that Lin Yi was after him. After all, he had just started a feud with Lin Yi, and no matter how he thought about it, Lin Yi was after him. How could it be so coincidental? Therefore, thinking of this, he would have felt a little apologetic. Although the box of money was lost in the Red Conch group, and the transfer was also a mistake, it wasn't the Red Conch group's fault. This way, he might have lost 2 portions of money and gotten 1 portion of drugs. But it was a very balanced situation. After all, Red Conches was dragged into this mess because of Lin Yi. After the general manager hung up, he told Fanny to investigate Lin Yi's case. This was quite easy to investigate. Fanny called Dafeng Bro, the person in charge of the domestic headquarters. Dafeng, it's Fanny, Fanny said after picking up. Ah, it's Assistant Fanny. Hello, what can I do for you? Dafeng Bro was Lin Yi's man, but he was still very respectful towards Fanny on the surface. After all, Fanny was his direct superior. It's like this, there's a person called Lin Yi. Do you know him? Fanny got straight to the point. Lin Yi? I know him. I've reported this person to the headquarters before. He's the boss behind Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. And Advisor Zhuge had a conflict with him before. He killed him. You told me not to mess with strong domestic practitioners like him. Dafeng Bro didn't know what Fanny was talking about, and why she was asking about Lin Yi, but he didn't dare to say anything. Oh, Lin Yi. It's him? Fanny was startled. She didn't expect Lin Yi to be Red Conch's enemy. He was the one who killed Advisor Zhuge. Zhang Wen also said that Red Conches and the Fire Wolves had a deep grudge with Lin Yi. Alright, I got it. Fanny didn't ask any more questions. It was enough that she knew who Lin Yi was. He was an unconventional practitioner in Huaxia. And she didn't need to ask to know that he had nothing to do with the association. Luonan wasn't stupid enough to send a practitioner to cause trouble in Huaxia. If people found out about this, they'd definitely boycott him. He'd be digging his own grave. So, after Fanny heard about this, she immediately went to the general manager and told him about the situation. What? Fuck, it's that Lenny again. The general manager found the name familiar. Now he finally remembered who Lenny was. So this kid was one of Red Conch's enemies. Lenny E. Ling playing such a trick. This kid is really cunning. In that case, this kid is here to cause trouble for our Red Conch headquarters? Very likely. Fanny nodded and guessed. Chapter 3288. Yeah, what should we do now? Issue a wanted order to kill Lenny? Fanny thought about it and asked. That's definitely not possible. Even the Overseas Cultivators Association can't do anything about Lenny. Where can we find Lenny? Forget it. Let's not get involved in this matter. With Dafeng's ability, going to trouble Lin E is equivalent to courting death. The general manager waved his hand and said, Then this matter. Let's just let it go. Fanny was a little unwilling to be fooled. Let's forget it for the time being. The general manager shook his head and said, Our current business is only drug trafficking. Our strength is not as good as the Firewolf gang. Let's report this matter truthfully to the higher-ups, and let the behind-the-scenes boss decide. Ah, you mean that Miss Lon? Fanny was surprised and her face changed slightly. The general manager nodded slowly. Some things were beyond the scope of his decision. Naturally, he wouldn't force himself. Fanny was very tactful. She knew that when the general manager called Miss Lon, she'd better avoid it. This was the rule of the Red Conch. After Fanny left, the general manager dialed Miss Lan's phone. What's the matter? Miss Lon quickly picked up the phone. It's like this. The general manager truthfully reported the matter of Lin E. And he looked to Miss Lon. Lin E. I understand. Miss Lon frowned. It was Lenny again. This guy really knew how to cause trouble. However, Miss Lan's mind wasn't on Lenny. In fact, for her, the Firewolf gang and the Red Conch were just byproducts. Her ultimate goal was to find a person. This was the most important thing. Hearing that Miss Lon didn't make any comments and replies on this matter, the general manager didn't dare to ask more. After hanging up the phone, he lit his phone again. President He, I'm sorry. I have already investigated. This matter was indeed done by that Lin E, so my previous promise is valid. I will send the drugs over. The general manager said. In fact, the general manager already felt that he owed a lot. But Helita didn't explain this matter. So he pretended not to know. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Both of them had their own ulterior motives. Both of them thought that Lenny was targeting them, so they didn't hesitate on this matter. They both thought that they had taken advantage of him. Of course, it was not that the two did not want to seek revenge on Lenny, but they did not have the opportunity for the time being. Miss Lon, who was behind the scenes of the general manager, did not say anything, and Helita was now seriously injured. If he wanted revenge, he could only choose the right time. Lin E, on the other hand, was waiting for Chi-Chi's chi-gathering pill after crafting the necklace. Chi-Chi didn't go to the association right away. She waited for half a month before appearing at the association again. This time, young Chi-Chi appeared as an Earth-class late-phase peak. Be it the elders of the association or Chairman He, both of them were shocked. They never realized that young Chi-Chi was a practitioner genius. Young Chi-Chi, you're already an Earth-class late-phase peak? Helita looked at Chi-Chi a little shocked. He was glad that he didn't make things difficult for Chi-Chi, because of Lin E. Otherwise, Chi-Chi would have left the association already. Putting aside the question of whether or not Chi-Chi's background had the ability to get her to leave, Chi-Chi's family was huge overseas, different from Tang Yuchi's. If Chi-Chi wanted to leave, President He wouldn't be able to treat her like Tang Yuchi. Plus, Helita had received some news from his brother, the Xianqian ancestor. Chi-Chi's sister Little Nine could very well be an Earth element inheritor called Tu Ran. After all, the Xianqian ancestor was the one in charge of the inheritors and the Sky-class island project. Even if the Yellow Earth sect was a sect in the West, they couldn't avoid the Xianqian ancestor if they wanted to participate in the Sky-class island project. They could only tell him about the inheritors. And that was how the news reached Helita's ears. He had been in contact with the Xianqian ancestor for the past few days, and he mentioned Lenny as well. But the elder told him not to worry. That someone would take care of Lin Yi when he got back. Yes, Chairman He. Chi-Chi nodded politely. Elder Wang, go get a great recovery pill and give it to Chi-Chi. This is the tradition of the association. Chi-Chi, don't reject it. The chairman said to Elder Wang before turning to Chi-Chi. Thank you very much, President He. Chi-Chi said happily. Chi-Chi, I heard that your sister Little Nine is the inheritor of the Yellow Earth sect? Hilda asked. Chi-Chi's heart skipped a beat. She didn't expect Hilda to know about this, but she didn't want to hide it. After all, exposing Little Nine's identity would only benefit her. No matter how strong Hilda was, he wouldn't dare go against the entire ancient world. The identity of Little Nine's inheritor was like a protective talisman. Whoever dared to touch Little Nine would be the entire ancient world's enemy. Which one of those Sky-class late-phase peak and full-circle peak didn't want to participate in the Sky-class island project and ascend to Sky-class strength? Yes, she's the long-lost sister of the Yellow Earth sect's young master, Tuba Wang. Chi-Chi nodded. Haha, you and her are both cultivation geniuses. But Chi-Chi, how come I didn't see it before? How did you train so fast? Did you have some sort of miracle? Hilda asked tentatively. Of course, he wasn't suspecting Chi-Chi. He just wanted to know if she had some sort of secret. President He, the truth is that I didn't cultivate internal martial arts in the past, because I couldn't calm my heart. You also know that internal martial arts cultivation is different from external martial arts cultivation. One is quiet, and the other is active. In the past, because of Little Nine's matter, I went around looking for medicine, wanting to cure her illness, so I couldn't cultivate in peace. But now, her problem has been solved, so I can cultivate at home. Chi-Chi said. But because of the uniqueness of the assassin group, we're not allowed to reveal our strength to the outside world. It's just that I was stuck at a bottleneck before, and I trusted the association. That's why I told them. Chapter 3289. Yes, Chairman. Chi-Chi nodded. Elder Wang, on the other hand, had already retrieved the chi-gathering pill. He gave it to Chi-Chi and left. Chi-Chi returned to Island X without a hitch. Even she didn't expect things to go this smoothly, but it was probably because of Little Nine's identity that Luo didn't dare to suspect her. Lenny didn't think that Chi-Chi would get things done this quickly. Seeing how easily Chi-Chi handed the chi-gathering pill to him, Lenny couldn't help but sigh. Chi-Chi's feelings towards him were unreserved. This chi-gathering pill was a very important pill for practitioners, but Chi-Chi didn't hesitate at all. She gave it to him like it was a normal thing. Chi-Chi, you don't want to ascend to Sky Class? Lenny sighed and asked after taking the chi-gathering pill. I want to, but with Lenny bro here, I don't need this pill. It'll be a waste if I eat it. Chi-Chi shook her head. Alright Chi-Chi, but you have to eat the next one. Otherwise Luo might get suspicious, Lenny reminded. It's fine, Luo won't dare do anything to me now. Yang Chi-Chi waved her hand and told him about Lil Gio. Oh! Lenny paused. The fact that Little Nine was an Earth Affinity inheritor was rare even in the ancient world of China. How did Luo, the chairman of the Practitioners Association, know about it? Other than the people of the Yellow Earth sect, only the Xianxian ancestor knew about it. Could it be that Luo was connected to the Xianxian ancestor? But no matter what, this wasn't bad news at all. He'd planned on leaving a chi-gathering pill for Chi-Chi no matter what. But Chi-Chi's face changed. But now, Lenny might be able to take the second pill for himself. Even if Chi-Chi hadn't broken through, as long as Xiao Jia was here, Luoran wouldn't dare do anything to her. But that was just Lin Yi's thought. It was better to be safe than sorry. If he could get through this, he wouldn't need Chi-Chi's chi-gathering pill. As long as he could rebuild his name in the ancient world, he wouldn't need Chi-Chi's chi-gathering pills. Kong Mingming's pills would come to him. Thinking of this, Lenny said, if that's the case, then I'll go into seclusion and refine this chi-gathering pill first. Now, Lenny had to do his best to increase his strength in order to deal with the predicament he would face when he returned to the ancient era. Lenny had to go and intimidate them again. Chi-Chi, Jiao, Shirhan, and Chengyi all knew about Lin Yi's current situation. Naturally, they wouldn't say anything. That day, Linny entered her guest room again to take the chi-gathering pill. Not bad. The pill in Lin Yi's hand had a medicinal aroma. It was a chi-gathering pill. But from the looks of it, the quality wasn't as good as the one Lin Yi took last time. But it was no wonder that the one Lin Yi took last time was made by Li Ju from the God of Dan chapter. And this pill, if it wasn't from the Sky Elixir sect, then it was from their previous stock. It definitely wasn't as good as Zhang Liju's. But it was good enough that he had one. He wasn't picky anyway. The quality of the chi-gathering pill only mattered when used to break the barrier. A good quality pill would increase the success rate, but an experienced pill wouldn't make any difference in the end. Linny had the experience of taking a chi-gathering pill before, so he wasn't too nervous. After preparing the pill, he took a deep breath and slowly put it in his mouth, swallowing it. Immediately after, a warm current flowed from Lin Yi's abdomen to his whole body, and it was as if his meridians were on fire. This feeling was something Lin Yi had experienced before. It was painful, but Lin Yi knew that this was a path he had to go through, and so he didn't try to resist it. He just let it happen, gritting his teeth and waiting for it to happen. After that, the burning sensation intensified, and Lin Yi felt that not only his meridians, but his whole body was on fire. But even so, Lin Yi gritted his teeth and persevered. This feeling was very familiar to Lin Yi. It was the same feeling he had the last time he took a chi-gathering pill. The more painful it was, the more it was a sign of a breakthrough. The energy released by the chi-gathering pill flowed continuously from Lin Yi's abdomen into Lin Yi's meridians. And as time passed, Lin Yi could feel the energy in his meridians increasing. The huge amount of energy was rushing at Lin Yi's meridians, as if it wanted to expand and expand them. On Lin Yi's forehead, beads of sweat rolled down continuously. This painful feeling was getting stronger and stronger. But in Lin Yi's heart he was very excited. After all, if he didn't feel this way, Lin Yi would be crying. It wasn't easy to get a chi-gathering pill, but it didn't have any effect. If that happened, Lin Yi would have the heart to die. As Lin Yi's pain deepened, the spiritual energy in the air gathered and circled above Lin Yi's head, forming an extremely weak vortex. It formed a resonance with the true energy in Lin Yi's body, and it circulated rapidly around Lin Yi's body. The faster it spun, the faster Lin Yi's body temperature rose. Finally, there was a loud bang in Lin Yi's ears, and his whole body trembled. His meridians seemed to explode in an instant, and at this moment, Lin Yi knew that he had broken through Heaven Middle Stage. At this moment, Lin Yi had the strength of Heaven Middle Stage. It could be said that Lin Yi was one step closer to that peak. Heaven Rank Middle Stage was only 4 stages away from the peak of Heaven Rank Late Stage. Thinking about the journey from Golden Stage to now, Lin Yi was filled with emotion. It was only a short year, but it felt like a lifetime. In this year, too many things had happened, and he had too many responsibilities on his shoulders. These responsibilities constantly urged Lin Yi to work hard. Fortunately, this chi-gathering pill allowed Lin Yi to smoothly level up and break through, and the current Lin Yi, with the essence necklace, could probably kill an expert with the strength of the peak of Heaven Late Stage, right? Chapter 3290. All this time, Lin Yi had been racing against time, and he'd managed to confuse a lot of people. Of course, Lin Yi had successfully broken through to Sky Class mid-phase, and it was time to go back. Hiding outside wasn't the way to go, and without any elixirs, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to break through again. On this day, Lin Yi said goodbye to Chi-Chi and Jiu, bringing Shirhan and Cheng-Yi back. But in the time Lin Yi was gone, something big happened in the ancient level, and it was all about the Palace of Darkness. But because of how big the incident with Lin Yi was, not many people paid attention to the Palace of Darkness. Qibing had been living a hard life these days. Not only did he have to clean the toilets with one arm, but Meng Yao made it worse, pushing all kinds of dirty work onto his shoulders. Now, Qibing had become the executioner of the Palace of Darkness, feeding the cows and goats. When the disciples were on duty, Qibing could be seen everywhere. He didn't want to do it, but he had no choice. The Palace of Darkness had become Meng Yao's word now, and as long as her actions didn't harm the Palace of Darkness, the Grand Elder wouldn't object. Qibing's backer, Elder Black, had lost his power as well, and he couldn't even protect himself. How could he care about Qibing? Qibing felt so wronged. Just thinking about it made him angry, but there was nothing he could do. In his heart, he was planning to go to the Sky Elixir sect, but he couldn't just go as he pleased. Although Kong Ming had agreed, he had to show some sincerity if he wanted to, right? If he just went, he wouldn't have any position in the Sky Elixir sect. He might just end up as a disciple, and it wouldn't be much better than being in the Palace of Darkness. He wanted to stand out and get revenge on that bitch, Lin Yi and Meng Yao. So he needed strength. A man couldn't be without strength, but without status, where would strength come from? Qibing basically had no chance of leveling up in the Palace of Darkness anymore, unless Meng Yao died or something happened to him. Just when Zhao Qibing was racking his brains, unable to find a reason to surrender and offer benefits, a phone call made him ecstatic. Hello, is that Zhao Qibing? I'm Kong Ming. Kong Ming's arrogant voice came from the other side of the phone. Back then, Kong Ming was just a playboy from an ordinary family that was not even an aristocratic family. However, he became an elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect, one of the largest sects in the ancient times. Of course, he did not know that Kong Ming was the son-in-law of Xianqian ancestor. If he knew, he would be even more envious. It's me, Elder Kong, are you looking for me? Qibing said respectfully. It's like this. Let me ask you something. Is Chu Mengyao really powerful in the Palace of Darkness now? The Xianqian ancestor knew a little about the Palace of Darkness. During this period of time, the Xianqian ancestor was a little anxious. This Laney hid abroad and wouldn't come back. Those who went to cause trouble for the Yellow Springs sect also stopped. The Xianqian ancestor didn't know where to start if he wanted to deal with Lin Yi, but it was impossible to let Lin Yi go just like that. Putting aside the fact that Lin Yi made little 11 into this state, just the conflict from before was enough for him to not let him go so easily. So, the Xianqian ancestor wanted to force Lin Yi back and see how the sects that were going to cause trouble for Lin Yi would react. If they didn't cause trouble for Lin Yi, then it meant that there was something wrong with what happened before. If they did cause trouble for Lin Yi, then the Xianqian ancestor could just sit back and watch the fire burn. However, no matter how he thought about it, he couldn't find a suitable reason. However, Kong Ming's words enlightened the Xianqian ancestor. Kong Ming was up to no good. He suddenly thought of a good idea, and that was to get Chu Mengyao. As Kong Ming's status rose, the Xianqian ancestor also told some secrets to Kong Ming, such as the Heaven-class island plan. At this moment, Kong Ming also knew that the young master of the Heaven Elixir sect wanted to take in wives and concubines. He wanted to take Bingtang as his wife. It was nothing more than setting this status in advance to prevent the future Heaven-class island plan from affecting the plan by losing his virginity. The wife and concubine of the Heaven Elixir sect's young master was equivalent to the young master's woman. She could temporarily keep her virginity, so Kong Ming suggested to let the young master of the Heaven Elixir sect go to the Dark Night Palace to propose. After all, the Xianqian ancestor had to do these things in the next few years. When Chu Mengyao was in trouble, how could Lin Yi just sit and watch? This way, Lin Yi would definitely return to his country, and his enemies would come to his door. Even if his enemies didn't do anything, the Xianqian ancestor could hint to some others to kill Lin Yi in the Dark Night Palace. Of course, the premise of all this was built on the premise that Lin Yi had to show up. That was why there was the scene of Kong Ming calling Zhao Qibing. It's like this for now. Zhao Qibing nodded and said, now in the Dark Night Palace, Chu Mingyao's words have enormous weight. Even the Grand Elder doesn't object to it. I see. Kong Ming frowned. What if the Heaven Elixir sect went to propose, and the Grand Elder stopped them? One had to know that the Grand Elder's temper was bad and stubborn. If she stood on Chu Mingyao's side, then things would be a little difficult. Just like Ice Palace's Bingtang. The Ice Palace had the power to be strong, and if Bingtang didn't agree, the Xianqian ancestor couldn't do anything. They couldn't let the Heaven Elixir sect attack the Ice Palace, could they? That wasn't realistic. Luckily, Bingtang knew that she had to be a virgin in order to start the Heaven-class island plan. The Ice Palace was a branch of the Five Elements sect, so the ancestral teachings definitely said this. So he wasn't worried that Bingtang would mess around. It was the same for the Snow Valley. But what made the Xianqian ancestor unhappy was that the Ice Palace and Snow Valley actually changed the inheritors to Lin Yi's first and second wives. What a scam. Even if they were virgins now, there would definitely be resistance when the plan was carried out. This resistance was Lin Yi, so in the eyes of the Xianqian ancestor, Lin Yi had to die. But because of the wood element inheritor on Boss Bai's side, the Xianqian ancestor didn't touch Lin Yi. Chapter 3291. And Kong Mingming was his son-in-law. Even if Boss Bai was angry, he wouldn't really do anything to Kong Mingming. It would just leave a knot in Boss Bai's heart. What's wrong? What's wrong? Qibing felt that Kong Mingming's tone was a little irritated, so he asked curiously. Nothing. But Qibing, I have a mission for you. If you do it well, I can recommend you to come to our Sky Elixir sect. I can't promise you the position of an elder, but you can be a deacon. Kong Mingming said. Ah, really? That's great. Qibing was overjoyed. Elder Kong, tell me, what do you need me to do? Don't worry. I'll do my best to complete the mission. It's nothing much. In a few days, something might happen in your Palace of Darkness. You just need to report the reaction of Grand Elder and Mingyao to me. You don't need to do or ask about anything else, Kong Mingming said. Is that so? All right, I understand. Qibing quickly nodded in response. Chapter 3292. Ah, the disciple was startled. He was about to question Kong Xiaoming when he saw the Heavenly Elixir Sect's Elder's token. He jumped in fright and quickly changed his words. Please wait for a moment, I'll go and report. Humph. What are you waiting for? Kong Xiaoming represented the Heavenly Elixir Sect, a first-rate sect in the ancient times. Because of his high status, he didn't care about the disciple of the Dark Palace. Of course, the disciple didn't dare say anything, who told them to be weaker than the Sky Palace. This was the situation that had been in place for thousands of years. The Dark Palace never had any strong characters. And even if they had a Sky-class late-phase peak, it was just one. They couldn't compare to the Sky Elixir sect. The disciple quickly returned and reported to Chu Mingyao and the Grand Elder. If it was in the past, these disciples definitely wouldn't report to the Palace Master. Yiwaner's Palace Master was just a title. Everyone knew that her words weren't as effective as in normal elders. But now, it was different. Mingyao was the rightful Palace Master of the Dark Palace, and her position wasn't lower than the Grand Elders. Naturally, they would report to her. Kong Mingming is here? Mingyao was in the middle of practicing when she heard the disciples' report. She frowned. This Kong Mingming was an old acquaintance. But after he became strong, Mingyao didn't have much contact with him anymore. Why would he suddenly visit the Dark Palace? Could it be because of Lin Yi? These days, Mingyao knew about the rumors about Lin Yi as well. As the Palace Master of the Dark Palace, it was much easier for her to know about these things than Tang Yin and Xiao Xiao. Her personality was fundamentally different from Tang Yin and Xiao Xiao. She was a young miss, and although she didn't manage a company, she had seen and heard about it since she was young. She had the temperament of a leader, and that was how she established her position in the Dark Palace. As for Tang Yin, on the one hand, it was because of her personality. On the other hand, it was because she had stayed here to exchange for Lin Yi's life. It was reasonable for the Shuigu to restrict her and prevent her from interacting with Lin Yi. As for the Ice Palace, Xiao Xiao was a strong person as well, similar to Yushu, but there was an even stronger palace master, Bingtang. Bingtang had always looked down on Lin Yi and wanted to see how Lin Yi was going to deal with him if he got into trouble. In fact, Bingtang was conflicted because of that little mistress. As Lin Yi got stronger, she didn't know how she should face Lin Yi. Did she really have to be this little mistress for him? Going from Xiao Xiao's senior sister to her sister? And so, Bingtang locked down all information related to Lin Yi. Her control over the Ice Palace was no less than Mingyao's, So naturally, Xiao Xiao wouldn't know about this. But even if Meng Yao was a bit worried after hearing the rumors, she still trusted Lin Yi. This trust was probably formed from living with Lin Yi for a long time. As far as Meng Yao was concerned, no matter how difficult it was, no matter how dangerous it was, Lin Yi would be able to deal with it. And no matter what trouble Meng Yao ran into, no matter how strong the enemy was, Lin Yi would always be there to protect her. Lin Yi was her protector. Because of her unconditional trust in Lin Yi, Meng Yao didn't think that Lin Yi was hiding out of the country. If he wanted to hide, wouldn't it be better to hide in West Star Mountain? With air good in there, whoever came would die. Why would he need to leave the country? And so Lin Yi must have other things he wanted to do. The Miss still believed that Lin Yi was the strongest. Just as she was thinking about why Kong Ming was here, the Grand Elder walked in. Evidently, she'd received a report from a disciple and was here to discuss a plan with Meng Yao. Yao Yao, are you training? The Grand Elder asked in a pleasant tone. No, Grand Elder. I just received a report from a disciple guarding the door. He said that Kong Ming from the Sky Elixir sect is here. Meng Yao said. Yeah, that's why I'm here. Yao Yao, what do you think Kong Ming is here for? The Grand Elder asked. I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with him, but he knows Lin Yi. Meng Yao said honestly. The Grand Elder couldn't help but frown when she heard Lin Yi's name. To be honest, the Grand Elder didn't think highly of Lin Yi, especially with the recent news from the ancient level. It made the Grand Elder think that Lin Yi was someone who only knew how to show off, but didn't have any real strength. So now that she heard that this might have something to do with Lin Yi, she said unhappily, Don't tell me that Lin Yi's real strength was exposed, and he's here to cause you trouble? After all, you were really close with Lin Yi. Yao Yao, why don't you tell him later that you've cut off all contact with Lin Yi? What do you think? I've always said that Lin Yi kid isn't reliable. He's just a solo practitioner. How can he be that strong? Now that he's exposed, his enemies are probably coming for revenge. However, the Grand Elder suddenly noticed that Meng Yao's face was very dark, and she couldn't help but stop talking. She wasn't afraid of Lin Yi, but she was afraid that Meng Yao would be unhappy. Grand Elder, Lin Yi isn't as strong as the rumors say. I hope you won't slander him in the future. Meng Yao said seriously. Forget it. I'm doing this for your own good. Yao Yao, if Lin Yi is really that strong, why isn't he back yet? Why is he hiding abroad? The Grand Elder wasn't convinced. She didn't know what Lin Yi did to Meng Yao, but she was still on Lin Yi's side at a time like this. Lin Yi has his own business. He doesn't need to tell anyone where he's going, does he? What others say is their business. Meng Yao explained. Alright, let's go meet Kong Ming first. Let's see what he's here for. The Grand Elder didn't want her relationship with Meng Yao to be affected by a solo practitioner like Lin Yi, so she didn't mention Lin Yi again. But to be honest, she didn't think much of Lin Yi. Chapter 3293. Meng Yao already knew the Grand Elder's temper, and so she kept the balance between the two of them, not touching his bottom line. The Grand Elder, on the other hand, wanted to use Meng Yao to revitalize the Palace of Darkness, so naturally he wouldn't touch her bottom line. The two of them came to the Palace of Darkness guest room, where Kong Ming and Xiao Yi were invited in as well. Kong Ming was leisurely drinking tea, not even standing up to welcome the Grand Elder and Meng Yao. Meng Yao didn't think much of Kong Ming, but when she saw Xiao Yi beside Kong Ming, her face changed. Others might not recognize Xiao Yi, but she did. He was the one who'd hurt Lin Yi. Xin Yan still had a picture of him in her phone, and she'd even told Meng Yao to be careful of this person. But why was Kong Xiaoming hanging out with this person? What was his relationship with Kong Ming? Kong Ming from the Sky Elixir sect was hard enough to deal with, but he'd brought someone this strong with him. It gave Meng Yao a headache. Xiao Yi and Lin Yi had a deep grudge. From the first time they fought over Han Jingjing, to the second time because of Sun Jingyi, when Lin Yi stole Xiao Yi's sky-class weapon. The two were as incompatible as fire and water. Elder Kong, you two sure are arrogant, aren't you? You came to the Palace of Darkness, and didn't even stand up to welcome me and Palace Master Chu? The Palace of Darkness doesn't welcome rude guests like you. Kong Ming Ming and Xiao Yi's actions infuriated the Grand Elder. This was a slap to the face of the Palace of Darkness. The Grand Elder cared about the palace's reputation the most, and these two's actions had crossed his bottom line. You can insult the Grand Elder himself. You can insult the disciples of the Palace of Darkness, but you can't insult the rules of the Palace of Darkness. Is that so? Why don't I feel that way? Please have a seat. Kong Ming Ming did not seem to understand the meaning of the Grand Elder. He still pointed to the seat not far away and said casually, "You." The Great Elder snorted coldly, revealing his peak heaven rank late phase strength. From the Grand Elder's perspective, Kong Ming Ming was just an early stage heaven alchemist. He didn't have much power. He wanted to scare him and let him know that this was the Dark Knight Palace, not the Heavenly Elixir sect. Umph. Little One snorted coldly and suddenly revealed his peak heaven late stage great circle strength, shocking the Supreme Elder. He looked at Kong Ming Ming's follower in disbelief. "You." The Great Elder was a little shocked. She never thought that Kong Ming Ming's follower would be so powerful. It should be known that in the entire ancient times, the number of experts who had the strength of the great perfection of the late stage of heaven rank could be counted on one's fingers. Who was this person? Little One looked at the Grand Elder's shocked face and smiled proudly. This was the effect he wanted. We have the right to be proud of coming here. Kong Xiaoming was feeling great as well. Having a bodyguard like this was the best thing he could do. He looked at the Grand Elder's face and was delighted. "Grand Elder, who are you trying to scare? Little One, right? Aren't you going to show off your heaven-class weapon as well?" Mengyao wasn't afraid at all. She only looked at Little One coldly. The reason why she dared to talk to Little One like this was because of her special identity. She was a metal element inheritor. If Little One dared to hurt her, then he would be going against the entire ancient sect. Plus, Mengyao knew more inside information. She knew from Lin Yi that the inheritor plan and the heaven-class island plan were led by the Xiantian ancestor. Since that was the case, as the disciple of the Xiantian ancestor, Little One wouldn't hurt Mengyao. He wouldn't be able to explain himself when he went back. That was why Mengyao was so arrogant and dared to mock him. As expected, Little One's face froze and his old face turned red. His heaven-class weapon had been taken away by Lin Yi, and he still hadn't returned it. This was a pain in his heart. Being directly pointed out by Mengyao made him feel embarrassed. "Okay, junior brother Kong, let's get down to business." Five Elements Sect, Xiantian ancestor's first disciple. Mengyao said to the shocked Grand Elder, directly pointing out Little One's identity. After hearing this, the Grand Elder's face changed slightly, and he couldn't help but frown. "Five Elements Sect? What are you doing here?" "Nothing, I'm just here to accompany junior brother Kong." Little One pointed at Kong Ming Ming and said, "Kong Ming Ming, aren't you an elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect? When did you become the disciple of the Xiantian ancestor?" Mengyao asked. "Haha, I'm not only the disciple of the Xiantian ancestor, I'm also his son-in-law." Kong Ming Ming laughed and said, "Okay, let's not talk about this. Palace Master Mengyao, this time I'm here on behalf of our Heavenly Elixir sect's young master, Silkworm Change, to propose marriage to you." "Propose marriage? What marriage?" Mengyao was slightly taken aback. "Our young master Tian has taken a fancy to Miss Chu, and is preparing to take Miss Chu as a concubine. How about it, Miss Chu? If you have no objections, let's settle this matter. From now on, you will be young Master Tian's woman," Kong Ming Ming said to himself, as if this matter had already been decided by the Heavenly Elixir sect. "Kong Ming Ming, what do you mean by this? Is there something wrong with you?" Mingyao's face darkened and her eyes turned cold. This Kong Ming Ming really didn't have any good intentions. He came here to cause trouble. Marry Silkworm Change. Didn't he know that she liked Lin Yi? But he probably knew. And he came here only because he saw that Lin Yi's strength wasn't good enough. So he came to cause trouble. "Elder Kong, please leave. Your Heavenly Elixir sect is a big family, and our Palace of Darkness can't afford it." The Grand Elder also had a lot of opinions about the Heavenly Elixir sect. Although it could be said that Yuan broke off the engagement first, these years after the engagement, The Heavenly Elixir sect had been secretly suppressing the Palace of Darkness. This made the Grand Elder hate the Heavenly Elixir sect a long time ago. How could he let Mingyao marry them? Chapter 3294. It could be said that the Grand Elder did this to cultivate an inheritor for the Dark Palace. But now that the Dark Palace already had an inheritor, they would have a place in the future Heaven-class island plan. They would have the right to speak, and wouldn't need to marry someone else. So the Grand Elder rejected it right away. Great Elder, you'd better think carefully before you speak. It's Miss Chu's fortune that our young master has taken a liking to her. Could it be that the Dark Palace wishes to go against the Heavenly Elixir sect? Kong Xiaoming heard the Great Elder's rejection and felt a little embarrassed. Although he guessed that there was an 80% chance that the Great Elder would reject, he still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. But now it was completely shattered. Xiao Yi, right? The matters of the Palace of Darkness were all decided by Mr. Yang back then. If you think you can go against Mr. Yang, then do as you please. The Grand Elder turned to look at Little One and said slowly, Mr. Yang. Xiao Yi paused. Mr. Yang is one of the Vajra double fiends. If you don't know, you can go back and ask your master Patriarch Xianxin. He will definitely know. The Supreme Elder said. Back then, why didn't Mr. Yang kill him? You. Little E had naturally heard of the reputation of the Vajra double evils. Although the Vajra double evils did not find the Five Elements sect back then, the news still spread, causing everyone in the Five Elements sect to feel threatened. Now that the Supreme Elder suddenly mentioned it, Little E was shocked. The Dark Palace was related to the Killer Kong duo? Was it true? This old woman wasn't just scaring people, was she? Why hadn't he heard of it before? This old woman must be scaring people. The Killer Kong duo had disappeared for so many years. How could they be related to the Dark Palace? If they were, would the Dark Palace be in such a miserable state? Hee, Elder Kong, if you don't believe me, you can go back and ask your ninth elder. He knew about it back then too. Oh, but a few of them were taken away by the Killer Kong duo. He should have been promoted by now. His position must be higher than yours. The Grand Elder said faintly. Ahem. Let's not talk about this. I'm here mainly to pass on this message. Of course, the one making the final decision is still your Palace of Darkness. We won't interfere. Kong Ming had also heard about the Vajra double spirits, but he had never experienced it. Therefore, he was not afraid of these two legendary figures. He did not want to let the young man argue with the Grand Elder again, so he said directly, think about it. There's no need to think about it. The Palace of Darkness will not agree to it. Please leave. The Great Elder rejected them directly. Actually we have good intentions. If Grand Elder doesn't agree, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Kong Ming shrugged and said helplessly. Good intentions? You call that good intentions? Mingyao retorted coldly. Doesn't the Heavenly Elixir sect think that the Dark Palace is weak and doesn't have any backing? If Miss Chu marries young Master Tian, then our sects will be in laws. If the Dark Palace needs anything in the future, the Heavenly Elixir sect will help. Kong Ming said. There's no need. The Grand Elder interrupted. What else do you have to say? It's fine if there's no need. I know that Miss Chu has Lin Yi as her backing, but Lin Yi, TSK. I wonder if Miss Chu has heard about Lin Yi recently? I'm afraid that backing is unreliable. Kong Ming shook his head and sighed. The ancient world hasn't been too peaceful recently. Right, as you said, the black-white double spirits have been gone for too long. They can't control the ancient world anymore. Recently, a group of robbers appeared in the ancient world. You guys have to be careful. If anything happens, ask Lin Yi for help. The Heavenly Elixir sect is powerless. Kong Ming, what do you mean? If you have something to say, just say it. What do you mean by a gang of robbers? Mingyao frowned. She didn't understand what Kong Xiaoming was saying. Nothing much. I just heard that there's a group of robbers recently. They specialize in robbing the weaker ancient sections. You guys have to be careful. Kong Ming didn't stay any longer. He stood up and was ready to leave. Alright, that's all I have to say. Think about it yourselves. Elder Kong, are you trying to scare us? The Grand Elder had never heard of any ancient sect robberies recently, so he thought that Kong Xiaoming didn't achieve his goal, and was trying to scare the Palace of Darkness with his words. Hee, it's up to you whether you want to believe me or not. I'm telling you. Kong Xiaoming shook his head. Together with little E, the two of them left the living room and left quickly. The Grand Elder didn't stop them. If Kong Ming didn't want to talk, there was no point in forcing him. The Grand Elder was strong, but she couldn't force Kong Ming to stay. That would be going against the Sky Elixir sect. The Grand Elder didn't want the Dark Palace to be dragged into this. Yao, what do you think this Kong Ming is trying to do? Is he really here to propose? The Grand Elder felt that Kong Ming's goal wasn't pure. It seemed like he had ulterior motives. I don't know, but maybe I should contact Lin Yi and see if he can come over. We can discuss this with him. He knows Kong Ming better than I do, Meng Yao suggested. Actually, she missed Lin Yi quite a bit, but she didn't have the chance to go back and Lin Yi was busy. She wanted to use this reason to get Lin Yi to come over. Lin Yi, the Grand Elder frowned. Yao, I don't want to criticize you, but Lin Yi is a solo practitioner. Now that his strength has been exposed, why are you still hanging out with him? A small character like him isn't good enough for you. Not only that, if you let him come, he might bring trouble to the Dark Palace. He was Kong Ming's enemy in the first place. And now that he's here, we're obviously going against Kong Ming. Isn't that the same as offending the Sky Elixir sect? The Grand Elder didn't want a marriage alliance with the Sky Elixir sect, but she didn't want to fall out with them. Of course, she looked down on Lin Yi even more. She didn't think that there was anything good about Lin Yi. She didn't want Meng Yao to repeat Yi Wan'er's mistake and have something with Lin Yi. Chapter 3295. Forget it, it's up to you. Highest Elder sighed. She felt that there was something wrong with what happened today. The Heavenly Elixir sect came early without any warning, and after being rejected by her, they left directly. This was really strange. But, although Meng Yao had established her own prestige in the Palace of Darkness, she was still lacking when it came to the foresight of the ancient level. So, the Grand Elder decided to think about what the Sky Elixir School was trying to do. However, the Grand Elder was destined to be disappointed. She would never have thought that the Sky Elixir sect didn't go through such a big circle for the Dark Palace. But for Lin Yi. But this conclusion was something the Grand Elder would never have thought of. After Kong Ming and Xiao Yi left the Dark Palace, they went straight back to the Five Elements sect. The rejection from the Dark Palace was actually within their expectations. Kong Ming called the Xianqian ancestor in the car. Father-in-law, we left the Dark Palace. As expected, the Grand Elder didn't know how to appreciate favors and rejected my proposal. Kong Ming said. But I carried out the second plan and told her that the ancient level hasn't been peaceful recently. Alright, I got it. Leave the rest to me. The Xianqian ancestor sighed and nodded. He hung up and said to the door, Xiao come in for a moment. This Xiao was naturally the second disciple of the Xianqian ancestor, Xiao Yi's junior. He was a sky-class late-phase peak full-circle master. Although he hadn't reached full circle for as long as Xiao Yi, he was still one of the top masters in the Five Elements sect. In the Five Elements sect, there were a total of 5 experts at the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage. Apart from the Black Sky ancestor Boss Bai, who had become a cripple, there were still the Black True ancestor, Little One, and Little Two. Master. Xiao cupped his fists respectfully and walked in. How about this? Tell Xiao San, Xiao Si, and Xiao Wu to come find me later. I have something for them to do. The Xianqian ancestor said to Xiao. Okay, master, I'll go find them now. Xiao quickly nodded. That group of robbers in the ancient level didn't even exist. It was no wonder that the Grand Elder hadn't heard of it. The Xianqian ancestor hadn't formed it yet. Since the Dark Palace rejected the marriage, the Xianqian ancestor had to move on to the next step of his plan, which was to find trouble with the Dark Palace. Either the Grand Elder would force Meng Yao to marry into the Sky Elixir sect, or Meng Yao would ask Lin Yi for help, Either way, Lin Yi couldn't hide anymore. He had to show himself no matter what. there wouldn't be any accidents. Therefore, Elder Xianchen sent his disciple to form a team to cause trouble for the Dark Palace. This time, he sent out 3 heaven-class peak late-phase masters in one go. You must be wary of the 3 old ancestors of the Yellow Spring sect. If they come to help, you must retreat. Even if they are at the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage, it is impossible for them to instantly kill you. You will definitely be able to escape. Old Ancestor Xianchen reminded. The only uncertain factor now was the Bloodcloak Underworld sect. He didn't know if the 3 elders of that sect were still on Lin Yi's side. He didn't know if they'd stick their noses into Ming Yao's business. The possibility wasn't high, but he still had to be careful. We understand. We have Little 5 as a cheat. We know what the opponent's strength is. As long as there are peak masters, we will retreat immediately. Little 3 said immediately. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.